All right, guys. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. It's time to get started. Apparently, this came out of nowhere, at least in my opinion. Sneako and MoistCritical had a conversation, so that's what we're going to check out. I'm a little shocked that they did that. But this comes amidst, whatever, the Chris Tyson situation. We'll talk about it in more detail. Frankly, based on Sneako's views that he's been very public about lately, and I can't talk about it right now, at the beginning of the video, he's worse than Chris Tyson, in my opinion. I will elaborate on that as time goes on. Don't worry. Stick around. Let's just go.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, you could see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see me, Mr. Krabs? All right. Let's get it started, dude.
Everything looks good. Sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's all good on my end over here. Yeah, you sound fine. Video looks good.
It looks beautiful.
I gotta make sure you're. I don't have headphones because it is what it is.
Why? Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just weird.
No, you're good.
You know, I met somebody.
Charlie was getting harassed on stream earlier about trans stuff, and he had to end the stream early. Oh, really? Wow. Sad stuff, brother.
That knows you when I went to do the Jinxie podcast.
Oh yeah, at Jinxie's place.
All right.
No, at Panera.
I doubt it. And how are things going on your end?
Things are going good. Every time I talk to you, I'm in some random country. Last time I was in Japan. I was standing outside of a club actually in Japan, and then I think you texted me, and I left the club, and I was just standing on the street underneath like some cherry blossom.
So weird to be so civil to one of like the biggest pieces of shit on the internet. It's just so bizarre.
Flowers at like 3 a.m. And now I'm in Turkey.
It was actually a pretty serene landscape, actually. That was very cinematic.
It was the nice flowers, and I think people had this idea that I was an angry person, or maybe that's how you painted me. And then seeing me like walk around like with the nice flowers, like, oh, okay, this guy's he's not that red pill rage.
Hey man, I don't try and paint you as aggressive or anything, but your clips, you go ballistic.
Because man,
that's most people's impression.
I'm all clips, not mags, but things do get clipped out of context, you know. It's
like what, when he talks about how he thinks it's okay for little kids to interact with adults as long as they look mature. What's the out of context there, bud? It's nothing that there are things that get clipped out of context. It happens to people, but Sneako's not getting clipped out of context. These are things that he's consistently said, and I've watched him do it in conversations. So he's not getting clipped out of context. That's just who he is.
It's funny because people say like this is the biggest YouTube beef is us, and I haven't been on YouTube for the whole beef.
Yeah, that's true.
For the whole
but
time.
Even outside of YouTube, you still have a massive platform. So it's more internet beef, I suppose, that people mean to say.
Yeah, I know. Just some of that stuff bothers me. Like when Jinxie's like, "This is the biggest YouTube beef." It's like I haven't been on YouTube for the whole time. It is frustrating not being on platforms. Since then, I've lost more. Like I'm in Turkey. People are like, "What's your Instagram?" I'm like, I have to explain. Like, oh, the Zionists banned me. They called me dangerous. This stuff I have to.
The Zionists banned him. Okay, so he's just saying that Jews banned him. He's just continuing with this conspiracy theory. So cool stuff, man.
I'm not allowed on these platforms. And then I have to imagine explaining.
Yeah, because he's an obnoxious asshole that breaks community guidelines. That has nothing to do with the Zionists. He's being ridiculous.
To a Turkish guy what Rumble is.
Well,
it's a streaming service.
I mean, you just explain it's a streaming platform. I feel like that most people know what that is.
They're like, "What's your YouTube?" And they're like searching it up for kids, and they have to download the app, and then they try to watch my video, and they got to sign in. But it's I do like the challenge, but
okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we came to talk about.
Yeah, man. So, with all of what's going on here, why are you so insistent on the age of consent being unreasonable? Or at least that's the impression.
Yeah, 13. That's pretty much it. He's been pushed on this multiple times. He doesn't care as long as the kid looks mature or whatever. It's just creepy shit. It's literal running defense for predators. It's disgusting. I don't really know what else to tell you. It's literal children. Vulnerable children that he thinks because they look nice in his opinion that all of a sudden they're prepared to be able to engage in something with an adult. It's fucking wild.
And most people gather from the way you speak about it.
That's a valid question, and I want to first ask what's your issue with my opinion on the age of consent, age of marriage?
Because it's a kid. It's a child. Children aren't ready to have relationships with adults. That's it. There's just a drastic, listen, power dynamics exist in every relationship in different ways, but a power dynamic between a literal child, so we're talking about a 14-year-old and a literal adult and a 20-something-year-old is too large, especially in that type of a relationship. In a sexual relationship, Like, that's fucking disgusting. Like, I don't like what how do we have to have this explanation? We understand that the brain isn't developed enough. We know that the brains continue to develop really throughout the entire lifetime, but they seem to peak around 25. Or if anything, we should have a conversation about raising the age of consent. But like, you know, it's disgusting. What?
Because I feel like age of consent should just be an accepted number, and I think the accepted one is 18. Like, regardless of where you talk about in the world, I feel like once you start talking about someone under 18, you're basically just talking like a predator.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like 18 is a pretty well-established number for most sensible people. At 18, you're going to college.
I was going to push him on, like, why do you think 18, though, other than what you've been told by Hollywood? Even though in one sentence, this is what he'll say in one sentence that, like, oh, Hollywood is, they're all a bunch of pedophiles on Epstein's Island. And then the other sentence, it's like, oh, Hollywood is trying to make it seem like you're a pedophile if you want to fuck a 13-year-old. It's like, okay, crazy.
You're living your own life now. You're outside of your family nest. Anything under that, you're still a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't developed like the particular life experience to make you mature enough to be able to interact with these things, and your brain isn't even done developing in any capacity. Like, what?
You know, it's not 18 in most of the United States where we both live, right?
I think it actually is 18 in most of the United States, generally speaking, but it's not 18 in the entire United States. It's 16 and 17 in some places, and it should be 18. It should be raised to 18.
Yeah, but that refers to like Romeo and Juliet laws, where if you're like 19 and with a 16-year-old, it's not technically illegal, but
which I'm fine with, like, generally some form of Romeo and Juliet laws. Like, that's fine. That's fine.
Not a 19-year-old, right? So why would you be arguing for like a 16?
Well,
you know?
First of all, I'm not arguing to lower the age of consent. I don't believe in the age of consent. We can get there. I want to.
Yeah, he's arguing to abolish it, not lower it. Wow. Thanks for the clarification.
Establish some terms first.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's not even just with Romeo and Juliet laws. There's a lot of states where it's 16 regardless of Romeo and Juliet, and then
yeah, it shouldn't be. They should raise it up.
you go to Europe, most countries are 16.
Yep, disgusting. Fucking losers.
Japan, I think they just changed it. It was like 13 or 14, and now it's 16. Brazil
It should be 18.
it's 14. I saw that from the Nelk Boys video. They were joking around about
Yeah, pretty gross shit.
how they should, like, when in Rome, they're in Brazil, so they might as well sleep with a 14-year-old. Right?
Gross.
Or across the world, 18. I want to see, like, why do you think 18 is the age of consent?
Because it's an acceptable age of maturity for people to be able to have an informed opinion about who they want to and not want to sleep with. That's why. It's not really a super complex topic. Okay?
Because that right now is the one that makes the most sense. I guess to piggyback off.
This is the problem, is, like, I don't think Charlie, like, this, I don't know if he's going to give, like, an informed, he's going to pretty much say, like, hey, that's how it is and that's how it should be, which I agree with, but I don't know if he's going to be able to explain why.
What you're saying. So if you're traveling right now, if you go to Europe, are you going to be comfortable like hooking up with a 16-year-old? Like, just because it's legal there, would that make you feel comfortable?
No, I don't hook up anymore. I'm
not saying that you do, but I'm saying if you were, you know, single and looking for someone, would you feel comfortable with it being a 16-year-old if it's in Europe versus US?
I wouldn't do that. Like, I would not have sex before. I think sex, like, out of wedlock altogether is something that we should not encourage anymore. And having the age of consent, having...
Last year, this guy was having, like, this whole big thing about how men should do whatever they want and have multiple girlfriends and fuck whoever they want, so... Incredible.
That idea encourages people...
He's really pushing into this Muslim grift here, huh? Just fucking incredible.
...to have premarital sex, right? Just that term, age of consent, means you're consenting to something that we shouldn't be doing. So no, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Great.
Okay, so then instead of let's take it away from like premarital sex.
Just to be clear, like, I know that it might sound more reasonable, like, oh, okay, so he thinks that they should be married first. In my opinion, marrying an adult, marrying a child, and then having sex with them is exponentially worse than just having sex with a child. They're both really bad. But it's like scenario number one, you have a 25-year-old and a 14-year-old where they have sex once. Okay, that's disgusting. That person should be arrested. Scenario number two, we have a 25-year-old married to a 14-year-old who, in a lot of these more regressive cultures too, they're completely subservient to that 25-year-old. They have to do whatever they have. They say, well, whatever the other person says, they have to do. Like, it's like literal next level grooming. I don't really know what else to tell you. Like, what? It's even worse. It's exponentially worse.
Would you feel comfortable marrying a 16-year-old? Like, would you meet a 16-year-old with romantic intent if you're in Europe and maybe marry a 16-year-old? Nothing sexual.
I probably wouldn't personally, because I don't think that I'd be on the same mental playing field. I like to have intellectual conversations. I like to be more...
I bet you do.
I like to be with women that are around my same age, because then I can have conversations. I like to relate to them. You know?
So then if you acknowledge that mentality of like wanting to have intellectual conversation with somebody, and you acknowledge that somebody young is generally or is incapable of having those conversations, then why don't you take that a step further and realize that that gap in intellectual capacity, knowledge, wisdom, everything is massive. And something that somebody could hold over a young person's head and take advantage of them with.
No, I think there'd be too much of a gap. But other people, like, if they're able to get along, then I don't see why that's so much of a problem.
Why? That's disgusting.
But why don't you see that as a problem? So for you, you're recognizing like this person's much younger than me. It is a kid. Like you are talking to.
Okay, so let's define these terms.
Let's in high school.
Before we even get into let's define these terms before we even get into this conversation. What is a child?
I would.
I mean, are we going to talk about development stage? I mean, yeah, you would say that they're a teenager. Or a preteen, it depends on how old you're talking about. But like a teenager and an adult. So a teenager is somebody who's in their teenage years, and an adult is somebody who is 18 and older. At least in the United States, that's considered an adult by our standards.
Use the age of consent. Under 18 would be a kid in my eyes.
So a 17-year-old who's 364 days.
We're not talking about 17-year-olds to 364 days. We're talking about 15-year-olds. But he's trying to move it to a more reasonable position. Because he knows that when he says an adult and a minor, people are thinking like, oh, like a 14 or a 15-year-old kid and like a grown adult, like somebody in their 20s, their mid-20s. But he's trying to bring it to where he thinks is more reasonable. It's like, oh, well, what if a 17-year-old that's about to turn 18 tomorrow and an 18-year-old, like, isn't that illegal? Like, is that bad? It's like, dude, you're being stupid on purpose.
That's a kid?
Yep, I'm gonna use very hard set terms. If it is under 18, even if it's 17, 364, that's still a kid.
That's a kid. Okay,
I think it's important to have these hard lines.
Well, yeah, you have to draw a line somewhere
in the sand where it doesn't have this kind of wiggle room.
Okay, why does that define kid?
As I said earlier,
because we've set a particular age of consent based on all the available data that we have about the maturity levels of people of particular ages, and we decided to create a hard line at 18 as what we consider like a fair age of consent, where for the most part these people will have enough agency and intelligence to be able to make their own decisions, generally speaking.
18, at that point, you're going...
And so, like, you have to draw a hard line somewhere. And you don't even draw the hard line because we have Romeo and Juliet laws, so...
Out of high school, you're going to college, you're living on your own, you're no longer, a child under your parents' roof, for the most part. Extenuating circumstances, of course.
Well, that's a whole different conversation about, like, different people being different levels of maturity based on, like, what's going on in their life. So, like, yeah, an 18-year-old that's, like, living on their own is going to be more mature and probably more ready for the world than an 18-year-old who's not. Like somebody who's still living with their parents. But again, there's so many different people in the world and in the United States that you have to draw a hard line somewhere. You can't. It's difficult to make all these like varying exceptions for all these different things.
But at that age, you are starting to become independent. You are no longer just in your parent's household a kid. You are now going off into the world on your own.
You do.
Yeah, I mean, you legally have agency over yourself to make whatever decision you want.
Admit that varies for most people.
Sure, it does. You can't really do much for that. Okay.
Right. And a lot of people don't move out of their parents' homes until they're 25, 26, 27. A lot of people.
There's nothing wrong with that.
A lot of people graduate high school 16. A lot of people graduate high school 20.
And okay. Just to be clear, not a lot of people graduate high school at 16, and not a lot of people graduate high school at 20. Compared to the amount of people that are graduating high school, the overwhelming majority of them are graduating at 18. Just to be clear, this is not a common occurrence where people are graduating really early or really late. It does happen. Just to be clear. But yeah, just to be clear, not a lot. Maybe raw number wise, you'd see a lot over the course of 300 million people. Oh, there's kind of a lot. There's like 500. Yeah, that's a lot as a number, but is that a lot compared to like, let's say like 100,000 people? I'm just throwing numbers out who graduate a year. No, of course not. So not a lot of people. He's just making up things.
It's a huge variable. So to set that in stone is that this is when you're a kid and this is you're an adult. That doesn't apply to most people. So why would you define a kid and an adult if it doesn't apply to?
Cool. So same logic, because I know he's gonna have a meltdown about trans shit. By this logic, then you could argue that since there are so many different variables, that some of these young people who where like doctors say that they should get transitioning surgeries should be able to get them because maybe they're more mature for their age, right? Like it can't stop here. It doesn't get to stop at like sex. Like you're advocating so hard for fucking a kid. It's so bizarre. I don't care. Like, well, he means marriage. You know that like once you get married, they have sex. So like he's trying to sugarcoat it to seem reasonable on a very unreasonable predatory stance.
Most people.
Because it needs to be defined. Otherwise, you can get into this really gray area where you, like a lot of the things you say can be misconstrued as you wanting to have sex with a 50.
It's the same argument as like drinking and driving. I'm sure that there are people who are really good at driving when they're drunk, maybe even better than when they're not drunk. But do you think that we should still let people drink and drive? No, probably not. You go, yeah, no, let's not do that. That seems a little ridiculous and overcomplicated to try to engage in this conversation. So we don't. That's what it comes down to. We understand people are different and mature at different levels, but generally speaking, 18 is a solid age of consent. That's literally all it boils down to.
15, 16-year-old.
Who construed that?
All of our scientific data about like childhood development and like adult development. Like, what are you talking about?
A lot of people, because I mean,
I don't think
in
anybody
clips
thinks
that
that.
I played in the video, you were
There's no-
saying like the age of maturity, the age of development, and then you use 16 and 17 in that clip.
So
like, for the age of marriage.
The definition of an adult is 18 years old.
That would, yes, in the United States, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fine establishment right there. Anything under 18 would classify as a kid. I think that's important.
Okay, but you're getting that from what? From personal experience? From the
Getting that from the law, and laws and morals typically play off each other. Not perfectly always, but typically, yeah.
government, from the law? Because that's legally in America, that's when you become an adult, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, legally.
So you're following the government's definition of an adult.
Yes.
I think there needs to be a definition, and that one's been around for a
Yes, and just to be clear, we are the government and have a level of say on the age of consent. Okay, just to be clear, we vote for things.
long time, and I think that's the one most people accept as the closest to, like, yeah, this is when you become an adult.
It actually hasn't, right? 200 years ago in the 1800s in America.
Wow, great. We're not 200 years ago, 1800s in America. We don't shit and we don't literally throw our shit in the street. I don't care about 200 years ago in America. I do not give a singular fuck about what they were doing 200 years ago in America before they had established bathrooms, okay, and any level of real intelligence. What?
The age of
Yeah,
marriage.
we can't live like that. We're so much more advanced than that. Why would we play by those rules? Because at that point, are you going to start arguing that we should be able to start wedding 12-year-olds? Like, is 12 too young?
That's not the point. I'm saying you're saying that the U.S. defined.
Okay, so he did not answer that question on purpose. It's because Sneako does not think that 12 years old is too young to get married. That's why he's not going to engage with that, because he's been asked about this. He's been asked about 9-year-olds, and he does not give the answer.
Adult as 18. Well, I'm saying 200 years ago, the age of marriage in America was 10, and
That's disgusting.
the UK was 7.
Gross.
Right. So if the government decides to change it, you're saying it's 18. If the government, maybe if Kamala Harris gets elected, then the new legal age of an adult is 25. And there could be reasons to say that. They graduated college. They don't leave the house until this age. Their brains don't.
So it wouldn't magically. This fantasy scenario does not work. I understand what he's trying to do. He's playing to his base, and he's trying to play to this idea that the government has too much control, and there's this secret shadow entity that you have no control over. You do. You can vote for local elections. You can vote for your elections. People can vote. If somebody platformed on age of consent, that would be something that you would consider when it comes to voting. Okay, Kamala Harris is not going to get in and decide magically to vote in the age of consent of 26. It wouldn't, or 5. It would never pass because it wouldn't have any support from anybody at all. It's not going to magically happen. We accept 18 because we have a lot of data on childhood and adult development in different people, and we use those as considerations to craft an 18 age of consent. Could we raise it? There's a conversation about that. Yeah, maybe we could raise it. Absolutely. I think we should standardize 18. Okay, but like, why would we regress back to 10? Like, have you looked at a 10-year-old? Like, honestly, I wish that Sneako, like, I wonder if Sneako looks at kids when he says these things. Like, I don't, it's disgusting. Have you ever looked at a child before?
Develop until they're 25. Your frontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25 years old. A lot of people aren't making serious money. They're not able to live independently. A lot of things that you could use to classify an adult don't happen for the new age American until 25 years old. So if Kamala Harris raised it to 25, would you then?
They don't have to. Your mind doesn't have to be fully developed. It just has to be developed enough to a threshold of the ability to have agency over yourself and to be able to make just like reasonable, rational decisions. Just to be absolutely clear, and we could change that in our legal definition, but right now we really have no reason to. So, just because something's not fully developed doesn't mean that you cannot like use it in some capacity. All right, like kids aren't fully developed enough to play fucking piano at 6, but kids still start early if they want to start, learning. Thank you for the $2 from Dummy Durs. Hey, have you heard of the 5 Nights at Freddy's? I've never heard of that before. Should I play it, dude? Is that what you're asking me?
Say that that's the new age. Would you agree with that?
I think that
No, because it's a drastic and immediate change to 25. That would be ridiculous. That progress doesn't happen progress doesn't happen or it shouldn't be happening so massively quickly. That would be a system shock, and it would never pass because again, there's not going to be any support for that. So it's just a stupid question.
that'd be totally understandable. Like, I
Right.
think
So
that's fine.
then does
Like,
that
if you-
make? So then does that make anybody who sleeps with an under 25-year-old? Does that now make them a pedophile?
No, because a pedophile is not defined as somebody who is an adult and a minor. Like, if we're gonna have, like, we'll have conversations about like real terms. A pedophile is somebody who is 16 or older, who has had a persistent sexual attraction to somebody 13 and younger, that also has a difference of 5 years or greater, and they've had that sexual attraction for a period of 6 months or longer. Right? Like, let's use like actual terms, like DSM-5 terms. That's what a pedophile is. Right? It's still disgusting for an adult, somebody in their 20s, to sleep with like let's say a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old. I think it's considered an ebophile or whatever. It doesn't really matter, because we know there's such a massive difference in the mental development of somebody who's like 25 versus somebody who's like 14, that there's never a way that it can be fully consensual. We understand that 14-year-olds don't have the ability to make their own decisions and have enough agency over themselves to not get themselves hurt or manipulated by a literal fucking adult with always more life experience, more money, more strength, everything, etc., etc. So, okay. Thank you for the $5 from Jack Esposito. The age of consent in NM, I don't even know what that is 16, and there's no age limit for marriage. The cop I bought my car from started going out with his girlfriend when she was 16. Well, I guess I disagree with that existing. We definitely need to change that.
No, I don't think necessarily that makes them a retroactive pedophile.
So then what's a pedophile?
But it's an accepted definition of 18 for a long time. Is
not for that long. Not for that long, and not through most states, and not through most countries across the world.
Do you see why this is like a weird take to have, though? Like, what?
Yes, Charlie's gonna. Okay.
Like, I don't.
Charlie's right, but I just feel like he's not going to be able to argue this very well.
I don't think you're coming at this from a place of you wanting to fuck a 15-year-old, are you? Like, to go back to.
He's coming from this at this from a place where he has no audience left, except for some people in more religious communities, and so he has to defend raping kids, because some religious people, not all religious people, will utilize their religion to be predatory to minors. This is across every single religion. All right, so let's just be absolutely clear. He happens to be grifting to, well, it's not even just to Muslims. He'll say things like Jesus and all this other bullshit. It's all conservatives. Or all religious conservatives. He's just chosen to grift as a Muslim. Thank you so much for the $2 from Darky Sharky. Papa, can you be the martyr to my Homelander? What? The Marty to my Homelander. Which one was Marty, dude? Are you saying, doesn't he get, like, killed?
That question. Is 12 too young? Do you think 12 is too young?
I think 12 is too young for me, yes.
No, see, he said for me. Sneako thinks that 12 years old is completely acceptable for an adult to have sex with. He said for him. He's playing language on purpose.
Well, for you, do you think 12 is too young in general? I feel like that should be an easy answer.
12 is too young in general, correct.
Wow, he actually gave us too young for what?
Yes.
And I don't think
I want to define, but what you're saying, your definition of adult is...
So what's your age of consent? Because you've been pushed on this and you couldn't give an answer. Thank you for the $5 from who? Hey, if you need more money, I'll send you more. You don't need to send me more money. Thank you.
Not even the actual definition. Do you know what the definition of child is? Like, anybody watching this can Google it. You can Google it too. The definition of child is somebody who has not reached puberty yet. That's the definition.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get into like the ebophile or whatever as opposed to pedophile, and those are all.
I don't know. I have no idea what those terms are. I don't know.
Why?
What that is, but I'm saying.
Why wouldn't you know what those terms are?
That's the actual definition. When somebody reaches maturity, it's based off of biological and physical maturity.
Starting puberty doesn't mean that you've reached maturity. You literally just admitted that your mental maturity doesn't hit till like 25 years old. Starting puberty doesn't mean that you are an adult. But okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it varies for everybody. Adulthood is not something that you can set in stone because it's different for the entire world. Right? I moved out when I was 14. A lot of people don't move out until they're 25.
You absolutely can make widespread general perspectives on people. Most people are going to mature at like 18. There might be some people who are early bloomers, but generally speaking, no, it's not true.
I went through puberty when I was 17. A lot of people went through puberty when they were 13, 14, 15.
Okay.
It changes for everybody. So for you to say that this is the set in stone age and say you're a pedophile if it's under 18, and then if you're over 18, you're fine. Well, then that's a weird line that doesn't make sense. So you're going to say this person is a terrible person if they're 17 years old, 364 days, and right after that they're good to go. Well, it changes for everybody. So we have to have something, a definition.
We're not talking about 17-year-olds on the brink of turning 18. Okay, we're talking about like actual kids. You've said 12 is too young, but I've heard you say 13 depends on how mature they are. So
we have to be realistic with everybody. Well, we don't. But you're saying we, but that's not even the case in the country we live in.
Why argue against it? If you don't want the age of consent to be lowered, why are you making arguments that the same people who do make? Right now, what you're saying is kind of...
He wants it to be abolished. He keeps saying he doesn't want it to be lowered. It's all like, it's just double speak. He's like, I don't want it to be lowered. He wants it to be abolished, just to be clear. So like, we kind of have to stop falling for this very clear like manipulation.
Kind of what NAMBLA used to say, if you're familiar with
I
NAMBLA.
have no idea what this is.
NAMBLA was the North American
He's just gonna say he doesn't know what something is when he doesn't feel like elaborating on it. And he's like, well, I don't know what that is. We're just not talking about it.
Man-Boy Lover
I don't know
Association.
what that
They
is.
were
Right, because
ahead of-
these-
I don't know what a pedophile is. I don't really know what a nepophile is. I don't know what this is.
Because these people don't want they want to have sex to take advantage, and they don't abide by the rules of marriage. They don't.
Everybody wants to have like all. If you want to marry a kid, you want to physically harm a child. There's never going to be an instance where you're not trying to be a predator to a child.
Have any sort of morality. They just
let's
want
take
to
sex
have.
out.
I'm arguing for this because I believe in marriage. Sex should only be within
Why aren't you married then?
wedlock. That's why I'm
So
talking
then
about this.
why...
Okay, he's just being stupid at this point. It's such a grift. He doesn't believe this. I just don't believe he believes this.
Why, if you're arguing... We can take sex out of it. Why, when you're arguing for marriage, do you want it to drop? Like, okay, 16... so
When
16
did I say? Just because I don't believe in the age of consent does not mean that I want it to drop.
Yes, he does. He wants it to be abolished. He doesn't believe in the age of consent. He's just being stupid.
Like, see, that's where like the internet can go apply that. Just because I'm saying,
Well, no.
Oh, just because I'm saying I want to get rid of something doesn't mean I want it to be gone. Oh, yeah, you're right, brother.
no, because you're saying the definition of an adult is 18. I'm saying that's an arbitrary number, and that makes no sense.
It's not an arbitrary number. It does make sense. It is a number that we have as a society, based on data, developmental data, have chosen as a time where we feel, based on that data, that somebody has the ability to have enough agency over themselves to be able to make reasonable decisions and have a reasonable thought process on those decisions. It is not arbitrary. We do not just pick numbers out of a hat, because I know later on he's going to have a fucking crybaby meltdown about how, like, oh, age of consent really doesn't matter because some people mature faster. But then when he comes to kids that have some kind of gender dysphoria, all of a sudden it's going to be abuse if you allow them to transition. You can't hold these two perspectives at the same time. You can't say that there are kids who have enough agency over themselves to be able to choose to get married and have sex with adults, but then at the same time go, I still don't think that young people should be able to transition. It doesn't make any sense. That's it. It makes no sense.
We should encourage marriage when people reach maturity. That makes much more logical.
I wish that Charlie would have just been like, okay, so then like, what's maturity and why can't like kids transition? Although I don't think he has that in his mind. He's not ready. He's not really here for a debate. He's here for MoistCritical's. He's just kind of like he's being a cuck. Like he's coming at this first of all too nice and completely unprepared.
It's even more vague though. Like, but also you directly
vague
did
because
say
it's
to me
different for
that
everybody.
when someone
not
can
that
legally
different for
drive,
everybody.
they should be able to legally marry. You did say that to me.
Right.
You
When
can
somebody
legally drive.
is legally ready to drive.
He has the same perspective as that weird Yandere dev guy, basically, where like you should be able to take a test to see if you can consent. Right.
The same thing. I think adults should drive cars. That's why I told you that.
Yeah, but you 15 and 16-year-olds can drive cars. You said when someone can legally drive
Across the
they
world,
should
15
legally
and 16-year-olds can have sex too. I think that people.
Nobody's contesting that 15 and 16-year-olds should or shouldn't be able to have sex because they can, and it's fine if they do. We're saying they shouldn't have sex with adults. If two 15-year-olds want to have sex, I don't give a shit. Who fucking cares?
People should not operate. But see, you keep thinking that I'm saying this because I want the age to be lowered. That's not what I'm talking about
Yes, you are. You do want the age to be. You want it to be abolished.
at all.
That's what it comes across as, though.
It is what he's saying. He's just lying.
When you
Maybe-
say
maybe
that
with the
you are-
internet-
That's why he's talking to fucking Charlie, because he doesn't know how to defend himself in a conversation.
Brain because people in the West, they want to have sex all the time and they have a different sort of mindset.
Yes, because people in other countries where it's okay to rape your wife, they certainly don't want to have sex all the time. You're right. And when like if a woman gets raped, it's like her fault. You're right. There's no shitty men. There are regressive countries, I'm not going to say which ones, where like it's totally there. Listen, there are train cars in other countries where it's women only because there's such a massive problem with women getting assaulted. I watched in some other country some woman that was like, she was a news reporter in like, you know, in some kind of Western media there, like they turned the lights off and she was getting assaulted by a bunch of men. Like sexually harassed. Like, let's not pretend that Western people have this fucking horrible disease and they have no discipline. Get the fuck out of here. That's insane. The way that women are treated in other countries is objectively worse than any Western country. Just to be absolutely clear, what you're saying is idiot speak.
Right here in the Middle East, I'm in the Middle East right now. They want to get married and then have sex. So
No, they don't.
people, just because I'm saying this does not mean automatically lower. No. That's not the case at all. I want to ask you then, because you're insinuating that it sounds creepy and that I sound like a pedophile. What's the definition of pedophile?
It is an adult who is attracted to children.
No. Well, yes, if you understand that, like a prepubescent child.
Yeah, it comes from the Greek word pedo means
It doesn't matter what what is it? The etymology of the word is like irrelevant. Whatever the fuck. Who gives a shit?
child, and phile means love. So somebody who loves a child.
Cool stuff, man.
Okay.
Did I use that word right?
Okay,
An adult who is attracted to a child.
to a child, somebody who has not reached physical maturity.
Yes.
That's the definition
And
of
then-
child. Somebody who hasn't
Right.
reached physical maturity.
somebody that's going through puberty has not reached physical maturity. That's why he's using physical. By the way, he's using physical intentionally because he said 25 was when mental maturity was reached before. So just to be clear, it doesn't matter about physical maturity. Sneako is actually admitting here that he thinks it's okay to mentally take advantage of children. Just to be clear, he keeps saying physical maturity. When he thinks a child, it looks sexy enough, it is okay to have sex with them. He's not talking about mental maturity, which is by every objective metric more important than what you look like, because that's what your decision-making process is. That is the fucking brain of the vessel you're in. He keeps saying physical maturity because he knows that they're not mentally mature enough to be able to have sex with an adult. So he just was his take is it's okay to have sex with a kid if they look sexy. That's his take. Just to be clear. Okay? Just to be absolutely clear.
It has nothing to do with 18. The definition of the word talks about physical maturity.
No, the definition of a child, by the way, is a young human being below the age of puberty or below the legal age of majority. What? Of majority? Okay, great. So there's different definitions, but it's generally somebody below the age of puberty. Sure, teenagers are still very young, just to be clear.
Not the U.S. government definition that you're basing it off of.
But there needs to be an agreed upon place. Otherwise, you get into this area. Again, you said when you can legally drive, you should be able to legally marry.
Right.
We don't have to talk about sex. Do you think it's okay to be marrying a 15 or 16-year-old? Probably not, right? Like I would imagine, probably not.
It depends. So
it depends. No.
This is where the age of consent becomes arbitrary. I don't even believe like
arbitrary.
that. Consent is a weird thing to even speak about, but it should be.
What?
It should be the father, right? If I want to marry a girl, I shouldn't even just get consent from her. I should get consent from her parents.
Great. Okay.
She should want to say yes. Her parents would want to say yes. That's consent from the family, and then you get married.
That's dumb as shit. That takes all agency away from that girl. And by the way, you talking about how the father should make the decision means that you're acknowledging that that young person doesn't have the mental ability or agency to make their own decisions. That's disgusting. There are other countries where they'll like buy fucking 12-year-old girls for money because like the families desperately need money, and those girls are now pretty much just in completely abusive, groomed scenarios their rest of their entire life.
The Islamic way. That's the only way that makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
This American way of this girl wants to have sex now. She gave consent, and then you get all these false allegations like, oh, she
Okay, that doesn't happen most of the time, Sneako.
was drunk. Oh, she took it back. Oh, she retracted consent. All this stuff, like there's not even a specific
So just fear tactics. Those usually work on incredibly stupid people, just to be clear.
way that we can define consent. What is consent?
Consent is when somebody who has reached a adequate brain age, right, to be able to make informed decisions, makes an informed decision on wanting to do a thing. It's not that complicated. Consent is not very complicated.
Some people say it's yes. Some people say it's like nonverbal communication. Some people say that it doesn't count because she was under the influence or she was intimidated. Even this is.
I mean, all these things could be factors. It really depends on. It depends on the specific scenario. Okay, consent is very complicated. Okay, it's been complicated for women, especially for a long time, because they're the ones that typically get taken advantage of without their consent. I'm not saying that men can't. Of course they can as well. But like, okay. Like, oh no, it's difficult to learn about consent. Good. We live in a country full of people with decent education. Grow the fuck up and learn what consent is. Okay? You don't want people taking your consent away. Take it out of a non-sexual capacity. Do you want people to just take money away from you without you saying that it's okay to do that? No, of course not. All believe in consent. Consent isn't just with sex. He just wants to remove it with sex because, again, he wants to run defense for fucking predators.
An arbitrary is a weird way to define when you're allowed to be in a relationship with somebody.
This has nothing to do with relationships, and it's not with somebody. So to be clear, he's trying to make it seem like if you are at a certain age, you just can't be in a relationship. See, like 15 and 16-year-olds, they just can't be in relationships? No, they can with other 15 and 16-year-olds. We're talking about with adults. And so he's using a lot of this like very, very, very vague language to try to seem like he's rational, but he's not. He's very stupid. Charlie's not pushing back on it.
You're kind of talking around it, though. Those are all very different things. Like I said, we don't have to be talking about sex. I was talking about marriage. The question was, do you think, and you said when you are legally able to drive, you should be able to legally marry. Do you think it is okay for an adult to legally marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
Okay, well,
don't even say adult. Don't even say an adult. Say a 25-year-old. Do you think it's okay for a 25-year-old to marry a 15-year-old? Be very clear. Like, draw his boundary. Just make him look stupid by asking him these questions.
By my logic, if the man is physically mature, if he's went through puberty and he's mentally ready at the age of 16, he's an adult. If he wants to get married to another girl who becomes a woman,
I just said
No. The answer is no. You're 16.
an adult. Is it okay for an adult
Right,
to
and I
legally
established,
marry
but we haven't even established exactly what an adult. So if somebody
You know
goes through
that-
puberty and
you
they're
know he means an adult is somebody over 18.
physically ready, they're biologically ready, they're an adult. So they could, the two 16-year-olds.
Would I debate Sneako again? Yeah, I would. And then I would just have Destiny come in and fucking school him. Because, like, what's the point? Because, honestly, like, what's the point? What's the headache? Like, it's like his fucking kryptonite. He always looks like a babbling fucking child, so.
Can be considered adults by my logic.
We're not talking about two
What are you talking
16-year-olds.
about?
We're talking about an adult.
That is an
And what you're
adult.
arguing, and it's
What,
from the
what I'm
perspective
saying is
of
that
adulthood.
so then what is an adult now?
Okay. We'll use your age.
See, that's why it's just use ages.
Someone who is 25. Is it okay for someone who is in their 20s to marry a 15 or 16-year-old? When you're,
Yeah, just say 25 and 15.
let me explain. When you're doing your arguments, it's coming from an adult. I've never heard you say like two teenagers should be able to marry. Like I haven't heard that with these takes. I'm talking about someone in your position in the 20s. Is it okay for you to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
But teenager, even bringing
See, he's not going to answer the question.
up this term that has nothing to do with child and adult.
It has everything to do with it. Just to be clear, it is a gradient from child to adulthood. And then there's the middles, like teenager. Okay.
So there's two phases. You're a child, and then you physically mature.
I don't know why you can't just
your
answer
body
that
becomes.
directly.
I'm saying the
He doesn't want to because he knows he looks like a fucking predator. That's why.
difference between a child and adult is when you're physically and when you're biologically, when you're mentally ready to have kids. That's the teenager is
It's not the definition of an adult, just to be clear. That's disgusting. That's just disgusting.
not even. So you added another term in this. It goes child and then adult. You mature, and then you're
No, it doesn't go child and then adult. That's an idiot take.
physically ready.
Okay.
Well, I didn't add it.
He's very stupid.
You
It's like extraordinarily dangerous for girls who are just going through their puberty or who just started puberty like 14 years old to even have kids. It's dangerous for their bodies. What are you talking about?
brought in two 16-year-olds. We were talking about an adult and a 15 or 16-year-old. I was not the one that brought
Just
this
say 25 and 15, dude. Stop being so vague and giving him so many outs.
into the equation.
Right.
With,
If it's illegal,
So, like,
if it's illegal, because we believe in Islam, we believe that we should obey the law of the land. If that's
Okay.
illegal, if that's not permissible, then we don't do it. We don't break the law.
Wow, great.
but we're not, I'm talking about your personal beliefs. Do you think someone in their 20s should be able to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
To someone in their 20s should be, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. He thinks it is a yes, but he is pussyfooting around it because he looks like a fucking disgusting creep.
I don't know many people who would do it. The maturity for people and the teenagers in the West is getting much worse, but there are
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for, I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore, anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
a 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented and it was both good on both.
You see, Charlie's letting him get away with defining what ages that he wants to. Do not let him do that. Say 25 and 15, or say 24 and 14.
Both families and they wanted to do it. Why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Well,
Why?
Probably because in a lot of these scenarios, like we're talking about a literal grown adult and a child. I've seen these instances where like they buy kids basically from four families. So like, yes, you need to stop the ability for that to happen.
Why would I tell them
Because
if everybody's consenting?
Thank you so much for from Habork for the 20-month medium gut and the Santa memes. Thank you.
Everybody's okay with it. If the parents are okay with it, if nobody's being harmed, if it's going to
Yeah, I'm sure that the kids are thrilled to be marrying a fucking adult because their parents said so.
be okay, if they're both abiding by the rules and they're not hurting each other, why not?
but they're
Yeah, as long as dad says it's okay for his 14-year-old to go work in the coal mines, it should be fine, right? That's what we're talking about here. Right? Like it's all the same thing. These consent conversations aren't just sex. It's across the board. So you're saying, well, as long as the parent says it's okay, then it's fine for something to happen. So fuck all safety regulations for kids working in some kind of a mining facility, working with sharp knives, any of that does not matter as long as the parents say, hey, this is fine. That's not how it works. I understand parents do absolutely will make the decisions for their kids, generally speaking, because their kids aren't old enough to make certain decisions. But there are some decisions that should never be able to be made, and that is marrying an adult or working with, working in the fucking mines or working in these just particular. There's just different aspects of this that we need some kind of a general perspective from the government to be able to control, because it opens up abuse all over the place. If you're like, yeah, it's okay for an adult and a kid to get married. Okay, so what's stopping people from basically selling their kids to other people? It does happen, especially people who are in poor, dire circumstances. So get the fuck out of here with this shit.
they're still they're at best a sophomore in high school. They can't consent to something like that. Like, do
Why can't they consent?
Okay, so now it's
16-year-old
sophomore in high school versus senior in high school. What's the difference? What's the difference?
I'm just saying,
maturity-wise?
I'm giving you a perspective on where that age
I don't even know how Charlie's getting fucking rolled in this conversation. It's actually embarrassing.
would be in life. Like, they can't consent to something like that.
That's probably you're bringing up an outlier that's probably not going to happen as much. I'm saying that these are arbitrary reasons to say a sophomore versus a senior in high school. How much different were you really maturity wise? It wasn't that much of a difference. The reason that you keep saying 18 is because in California, where they post Hollywood movies, it's 18. And so everybody across the world, this is the standard that we believe in. This is the correct age. Exactly.
Everybody across the world. Didn't you just say most places across the world don't believe in that? But now all of a sudden Hollywood's manipulated people into thinking that 18 is the age of consent. But it was like 2 months ago that he was saying that Hollywood's a bunch of pedophiles. So like, I just don't really know where it is. What are we? Are they saving the kids for themselves, Sneako? Are you upset that the Hollywood pedophiles are saving all the children for them to, rape? Then you want to do it instead? Like, I don't really understand what the take is here. I don't really get it.
On the dot. And if it's anything under that, are you going to say here that if a 21-year-old got married to a 17-year-old who was almost 18, is that 21-year-old a pedophile?
No, because that's not the definition of pedophilia. And I would say that's a 4-year age gap and generally not really that big of a deal. Don't really care about 17 and 21. We're not talking about 17 and 21-year-olds.
I would say that is a morally bad thing to do for sure.
Not morally bad. Not morally bad. Is that?
I wouldn't call them a pedophile.
So when does somebody become a pedophile?
Do we need to go over this again? It's a literal, like in the DSM-5, someone becomes a pedophile when they have like a persistent sexual attraction with some, or they have sex with somebody who's under the age of 13 and they are 16 or older, and there's an age gap of 5 years and over. Like, I don't understand. That's when they become a fucking pedophile.
I would say when you have this position, you're
not answering the question.
He's literally trying to answer the question.
I'm explaining it.
Okay.
When you are in your 20s.
When Sneako answers like none of the questions, he's like, "Hey, you're literally not answering," when he's about to answer.
And you start preying upon someone who is still a child, a 15, 16, 14, anything under 18, a 21 and a 17-year-old.
But you still haven't specifically defined what a child is.
He's giving MoistCritical. He has defined what he thinks a child is. You can disagree, but he has defined it. Anything under 18. In this conversation. So Charlie's giving him too much control over the conversation. When we're having these conversations, what you need to ask is about literal adults in their mid-20s their mid-20s and up versus like an actual teenager that's like 14, 13. That's where you have to like figure this out. That's what you have to test. And every time a question's asked, Charlie's not saying, yeah, it's 25 and 15. He's like, well, what about like a 14-year-old maybe, but like a 14 or 15-year-old and like maybe somebody your age in their 20s. Well, his age is like 26, right? So stop being so vague, because then what happens is Sneako just controls the conversation. Now goes, yeah, well, what about 7? Oh, so you think 17, 21 is bad? It's like, okay, great. So like we haven't established hard boundaries. Like it's you're letting him control the entire conversation. Like you're literally you look bad and you look kind of dumb. When it comes to this conversation so far, we're only 21 minutes into this. There's two audiences here. There's Sneako's audience and there's Charlie's audience. Nobody from Sneako's audience has been convinced of Charlie's perspective that didn't already agree with him. But I would imagine that there's probably some people in MoistCritical's audience that are sitting there thinking like, some of this makes sense, kind of. He's just failing at the conversation emphatically.
I did.
So then why? Okay, there you go. So if pedophile is love of children, and your definition of adult starts at 18, if the 21-year-old marries a 17-year-old who's turning 18 tomorrow, he is a pedophile.
No, that's not how the word pedophilia works.
Based off your definition.
As I said, if he would wait, he would not be. Then yeah,
well, not wait. Based off your definition, that person's
in that position. There is no reason to not wait for the legally established, agreed upon definition of when you stop being a child.
Okay, so now we get into the question of whether the pedophile thing, is that a moral answer or a legal answer? Because it seems like morally, it's pretty much, okay, it's almost there. That morally, that's not a pedophile. Legally, it is.
Legally, it's not a pedophile. You're such a stupid fuck. Holy fuck.
Those are two different things.
It might legally be statutory rape, depending on the circumstance, but it's not legally a pedophile. It's like two fucking idiots arguing, except one idiot thinks he's smart, so he's somehow winning this optically. This fucking disgusting conversation.
But they don't need to be. They can coexist. You recognize that, right?
No. Then that's when you muddy up morality with the law. Now,
literally, morality and the law are intertwined. They exist off of each other. We create laws based on morality, and we uphold our morality based off laws. It's not always perfect, but that's how we do it. That's why we say, hey, murder is bad. Right? It's a morality thing. You don't muddy it up when you get into these conversations. More like literally in the countries that Sneako pretends to be part of, pretends to advocate for, they use their religion to create the law. It happens everywhere. That's how all countries will do it until they finally go like, we probably should have a separation of church and state.
Now you're allowing the government to determine morality, and that's where things get muddied up because if they
No, it's not. The government is us. Just to be absolutely clear, there might be issues with the government, but the government is literally a representation of us. It could be doing a better job, let's be real, but it is still a representation of us.
They changed it like they did before, like 200 years ago in the 1800s when it was age of 10. That was fine. Legally back then.
It wasn't fine. Then people advocated to change the law. He understands that this is a fact, that people advocate to change the laws. We do this every single day. The government didn't just the government isn't a magical fucking dragon that lives in Dragon Balls and comes out every once in a while and decides to change the way that we operate in society. The government is a collective of different people who have a perspective and then advocate for that perspective, and then other people go, I think I like that, or I don't think I like that. That's how the government works when it comes to these scenarios. So what he's saying is not valid. It is a stupid, idiot thing to say. He just sounds fucking stupid as shit.
Then they were not a pedophile.
But like somehow Charlie can't fucking counteract this.
Today, legally, they are a pedophile. There is no consistency there. You can't.
That's not how pedophilia works.
Allow you can't allow the government to determine morality because it changes all the time. Tomorrow, if the U.S. government legalized bestiality, if the government
wouldn't legalize bestiality because nobody wants to legalize bestiality in the government.
Legalized incest based off your
the government just wouldn't do that.
Logic, there'd be no reason why that's wrong. Can I ask you, Moist? Do you think that incest is wrong?
Yeah, I generally think incest is wrong. And the reason is because there's almost no scenario where, well, first of all, like this, there is a high. Let's actually talk about power dynamics. There's almost no instance when it comes to incest where there won't be an actual meaningful power dynamic unless they're the exact age. Because, like, let's say they're only 2 years older. Even like when it comes down to like, let's say a 6 and a 4-year-old, you'll generally speaking, especially if you're gonna like leave your kids alone for like a second, you're gonna give a little more authority to that older person, and that authority becomes ingrained into the two siblings to the point where that younger sibling or the older sibling can take advantage of that younger sibling, and that can carry into even into adulthood in some capacity. So there is that power dynamic. Obviously, I don't have to explain parents. So, like, yeah, that's the general reason why. I think that it's also a factor that you could have kids that have a massively higher chance of having some kind of, like, deformity or some kind of, like, we'll say birth defect. I understand that there are other things as well, like obesity, but I would say that, like, incest is much more significant and much more dangerous. And historically, a lot of kings and queens would engage in that, and that's why they were fucking stupid as shit. So, like, yeah, I think incest is wrong. There you go.
Yes.
Why is incest wrong?
There is under no circumstances any excuse for anyone of the same bloodline to be romantic like that.
Okay, why? You're gonna have to be asked why.
By no means at all.
Why?
Yeah, he needs to. He's not gonna know.
I really think it should be pretty obvious why.
I don't know why. I'm asking.
Even
this is like literal debate shit. This is why you have to think of these questions.
I know where you're going with this because I've heard this argument from another streamer before about like the ethics of incest. If they don't have a kid and thus don't pass down like bad genes that lead to a bad child. I've heard this before.
But I want to hear your answer, because are we going with legal or are we going to follow some sort of morality, sort of consistent morality? Why is it?
Legal is a consistent morality. That's why it's the law.
Why is incest wrong?
Okay. Incest is wrong because I believe that no family dynamic should ever include a sexual relation.
Why?
I don't think that. Because it is not healthy. It is a bad thing to do. It is
a horrible thing.
He's right, but like, why? Like, this is the problem. This is what happens when you engage in like a petty internet debate bullshit. Is like you have to answer stupid fucking questions that everybody like that you really shouldn't have. Like, you just intuitively understand that you shouldn't be fucking your own child or your sister. Like, but you still, like, if you want to engage with this dumb fuck Sneako, like, stop giving him a platform if you're not going to engage in this stuff. And I understand why you wouldn't, but like, let other people do it. Because he just has an opportunity to pull more people from your audience onto him.
To subject someone to.
But why is it horrible? Because who told you that?
Oh my god.
It's what I believe. And also, if you do have a child with your own kin, the child suffers.
Okay, but say it's two brothers, two gay brothers. Okay. Chris Tyson and other Chris Tyson and Chris. If they're two brothers and they decide to be in a no, genuine question. It's what you believe in. I want to figure out where your beliefs come from. You personally believe that.
My beliefs come from a place of what I believe to be moral, where I don't believe that anyone in the same family has any position to be romantic with one another. I don't think that's
your morality comes from yourself?
My morality comes from like the world around me.
The answer that Sneako would give is, my morality comes from Allah. Incredible. That's why it's okay to fuck kids. That's where he's coming from.
Okay, so if the morality comes from the world around you, then by your logic, if you lived in America in the 1800s where the age of 10 was okay, and where the age of 7 was okay in England just 200 years ago, if you followed the world around you, that would be okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yes, that is how morality works. That is how progression works in everything. So, like, not a hot take, I think that generally speaking, we should hold societies to the morals of their particular time for the most part. We can look at them and go like, oh, this is bad, and we understand why, and that's perfectly fine. But we understand that, like, 200 years ago, people were extraordinarily fucking stupid. Like, extraordinarily stupid. They didn't have anywhere close to the same mental capacity as us because they weren't educated in a way that's going to inspire the mind, we'll say. So, like, yeah, those laws are stupid and they're dangerous, but people didn't really know why they were back then. So you wouldn't say, like, oh, you're a bad person for engaging in this. Okay. You would say by today's standards is absolutely wrong, and it should never have been, but we have a robust understanding. And typically we change laws once we engage in new understandings of different things like that.
That was fine.
It's not exactly a particularly hot take, very easy to look at.
Fine.
And it's not now because we've evolved past them. Like, we are significantly further along to recognize that this was a bad thing. People evolve. Like, people, like, here, we'll go even stupider with this.
So your morality is ever changing.
Yes, morality will be ever changing based on new information of particular things. Yes, that is how morality should be. You should always be open to questioning your moral boundaries. This is why you should just love this conversation. This is just the same conversation with Destiny, except like Sneako looks better because MoistCritical doesn't know how to debate this.
It changes with people.
Morality is
just don't talk to the guy.
Changing. Like, you are not born and then stay the same the entire time. As you take in more information, as you grow, so does your understanding of the world. That's how it should be.
Let's see where this goes.
Let's see where this change.
Okay, let's say we continue this, and morality is ever changing. Yep. And then you, MoistCritical, you're living in America, and now everyone around you now believes incest is okay, as long as you don't have a child that's going to come out deformed.
Why would they believe that incest is okay based on that? Like, what would lead you to do that? This scenario would just simply not happen. All right, things aren't just going to magically change. There would have to be somebody advocating for a position of change. So
then I would disagree with it.
So your morality does not come from those around you. It comes from somewhere.
It literally comes from everything around you. It comes from your environment as well as your genetics to some degree. What are you talking about? Like, this hyper-specific scenario, it would just not happen. We are not going to magically one day decide it's okay to fuck your mom. It's just not going to happen.
If your morality comes from around you, you would agree with everybody that's there. You would agree with the government. You would agree with the law.
No, that's literally not true. That's how we change laws in the first place, because different people disagree, and then they advocate, and then other people go, oh, you know what? I think I want to advocate for that too, and they change.
The land.
I think Sneako is just too fucking stupid to engage in this. He just needs to be simple for him. He just needs somebody to tell him what to feel and think. And that's religion. He doesn't have the ability to contend with his own morals.
Where would you get...
Everyone has their own individuality.
Because he's he's an intellectual coward.
Individuality has nothing to do with morals. Your personal...
because your morals are formed from your personal experiences and from what you take in around you, from the people around you.
Okay, but if you take it in from the people around you, then incest would be okay if everybody was doing it.
If you personally didn't agree with it, it wouldn't.
That would be true in that moral system. It doesn't mean that it is a good thing to do. That's why we stopped it. It used to be okay to do, and then we're like, this is yielding some pretty bad outcomes when it comes to power dynamics, and also when it comes to kids being born with significant genetic issues.
Like, if you want, like, I don't know why you're doing the argument a little incorrectly, but I know where you're trying to go. But the point is, like, the fact of the matter is, people will always have their own perspectives on things, unless, of course, you just follow what you are told 100% of the time. Like, for you, you're pushing back against the age of consent because you don't like being told that this is what it is based on this.
No, he doesn't like being told that you can't have sex with sexy 13-year-olds, guys. That's what he doesn't like being told.
Believe that, well, actually, there's a couple other extenuating circumstances in these cases.
That's not what I believe in. My belief comes from something that's consistent.
It's the fucking Quran. We get it.
It comes from the Islamic way. It comes from the Islamic way because nothing else makes sense. The Western way is always adapting, and now we allow people to change their genders, something that was admonishable only 10 years ago. See,
who cares? By your logic, though, these kids changing their genders. Well, first of all, trans people have always existed in different forms throughout the entirety of society. That's number one. Number two, like, according to you, these fucking people, like, as a kid, you're able to make these decisions anyway. Who gives a singular fuck? So who cares? You're
following the ever-changing morality. Only 10 years ago, a man becoming a woman was a mental illness.
It's still considered so in the DSM-5, just to be absolutely clear. So this is obviously something that's beyond Sneako because he's a stupid fuck. It is still classified in the DSM-5 like gender dysphoria, and that's okay. So is things like ADHD and autism and whatever else is in there. It's not a bad thing or a negative on you as a person because you have something that would be classified inside of the DSM-5. The problem is that bigoted people have decided because you have some kind of thing classified in the DSM-5 that makes you less of a person, and that's the problem. So when people say, oh, that's a mental illness, they're typically saying with a little bit of twang on it to try to shame you, even though the reality is that everybody has problems and different people have different mental illnesses, and they don't take away from you as a person. Okay? Trans people have always existed. Gay people have always existed. Societies that accept these people have not always existed. It's okay if you have something that's in the DSM-5. It's not a big deal at all. It literally does not matter whatsoever in any meaningful capacity. As long as you're not hurting somebody else. Being trans doesn't hurt other people. It does not matter.
Something that was shamed upon. 10 years ago...
Why? For what reason was it shamed upon? Why? It was also like, what is the issue with it being like, why? What does it matter if something is shamed? They used to shame people who bathed too much. Do you think that we should get rid of that? Thank you for the $5 from International Failure. Sneako, Aiden Ross, Tates caused my brain cells to kamikaze. Incredible.
If Chris Tyson was going on a Mr. Beast video and he was there dressed up like a girl and he was saying that I'm taking puberty blockers, hormone blockers, everybody would admire.
Why would he take hormone blockers or puberty blockers? He's a grown adult, or excuse me, she is a grown adult. My bad. But anyway, she's a grown adult. Why would she take hormone blockers now? That's not how it works. You take those before you go on into puberty. That's why it's called a puberty blocker. He's just so fucking stupid.
Admonish him. In a lot of places, he would be excommunicated. He would.
Wow, that sounds really bad. We shouldn't excommunicate trans people like that. That's probably why trans people will take their own lives, because they're constantly shamed for something that they are, to some degree, probably born with. Or maybe there's some kind of meaningful, significant environmental thing. Like, there is conversations about trauma potentially being linked. But at the end of the day, these people are just going to be shifted by their environment and by their genetics in some capacity. Okay, you would never expect somebody with PTSD from being in the military to just get over it, right? So we understand, accept, and acknowledge these different issues. Okay.
Say, absolutely, I do not want kids to take hormone blockers and change themselves forever. But today, that's allowed. Today, that's pushed. Today, that's okay.
It's not pushed. It's an uncomfortable conversation that people have about kids transitioning. I'm not comfortable with it, generally speaking, depending on the transitioning. But here's the reality, because transitioning sometimes is just social. So you're just like, I'm a boy now, and you dress differently and see if that takes. And like, if you have a feeling of euphoria, you might take it a step further, or maybe that person doesn't, and they would take a step backwards. Generally speaking, based on all the scientific data that we have, allowing kids to safely transition at a reasonable rate, if they have gender dysphoria, has the best outcomes. Will it be like that forever? I don't know. Data is always changing, especially on new sciences. Mental health sciences in general are very new. Sciences, when it comes to trans people, are very new. Am I comfortable with a kid making these decisions? No, not really. But at the end of the day, this is between the medical professionals, the kid, and the parents. And that's just what it boils down to. It being uncomfortable to me doesn't mean that I get to go, it shouldn't exist. I'm not educated in these topics in any meaningful capacity. There are scientists who devote their entire lives to having positive outcomes for people that have particular issues like this. That's what's important. It being uncomfortable to me is fucking irrelevant.
And then everybody else kind of falls into suit. There are a small minority of people in the West, people that believe in God. They say that this is absolutely wrong, and then they get banned for it.
Nobody gets banned for it.
You can't follow the people that are around you, the ever-changing morality, because
you can't follow changing morality. What? Because you're too fucking stupid to contend with it?
A line of questioning. You keep going off onto these tangents. Look, at the end of the day, man,
it's not a tangent.
You can believe whatever you want to believe, but the point is, people are always going.
No. You cannot believe just whatever you want to believe. You cannot.
You are doing.
Well, you literally can believe whatever you would like to believe. It's a very interesting conversation to have about how your mind actually dictates like the way that you have interactions with the world. But anyway, we don't just believe what we want. We have beliefs based on different systems. Different systems have different bases for morality. His morality basis is a book that's thousands of years old in countries that are significantly weaker than all of our countries where we have evolving morality because we're number one. Okay, we could just stop pussyfooting around. There's a reason why we're the strongest country in the entire world, and part of it comes from that moral structure system. It's not because religion is bad, it's because people who actually apply their fucking brains to their morality tend to be more intelligent with better outcomes and able to overcome different odds. That's why you'll see the countries that are generally less religious more successful, because I'm sorry, okay? But it doesn't just come from nowhere, but everybody has a different basis for their morality. So a lot of people have a very, very basic basis for their morality, and it's called like the golden rule. It sounds silly, but like, hey, we don't want to do something onto somebody that we wouldn't want to happen to us. We probably shouldn't murder people or fight people randomly in the streets or do A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And we've taken these very basic protocols and we've evolved them. And a lot of these basic protocols start in the Bible, where these were in or different religious texts thousands of years ago, but they haven't really evolved, because at the end of the day, those are people writing those, possibly from God's interpretation, but the reality is that God might be filtering those perspectives through people who are too fucking stupid to be able to really function in a meaningful capacity. Just to be clear, we probably need an update, God. Maybe you can come down and have a little bit more of a nuanced conversation with us. Right? That might be a little helpful.
If you believe bestiality is wrong, you should not be in society. If you believe incest is okay, you should not be within the community. You should be excommunicated.
You don't have to be excommunicated because you think it's okay to fuck dogs. If you fuck a dog, you should go to jail. You don't have to be excommunicated. But okay, sure.
There's some certain morality that should supersede the government. That should supersede something.
The government is a collection of people that create moral codes. Just to be clear, that's why if you fuck a dog in the United States, you will go to jail, which is a good thing, by the way.
The government should
that's
not.
the age of consent for you.
It's not the age of consent. It's
you should stay on topic here.
I'm staying on topic.
What you are doing is you are deflecting to other topics. You have still not directly said that you think it is a bad thing for an adult to marry a child.
Stop saying adult and child. Say fucking ages. Give us ages, because he's just going to continuously go, but what's an adult? What's a child? What's a
child? Like, you are still unable to say that. Now,
but you haven't even defined.
Do I believe in God? Yeah, I'd like to believe in God. I would like to. It's unfortunate that a lot of people who seem to be religious use that as a weapon to try to attack other people, like Sneako.
Child.
My definition is anything under 18. If you're under
That's
18,
exactly what a child is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is a great line in the sand. If you are under 18, you are a child.
It's not a great line of sand.
It's really not, because it takes away the nuance of different developmental cycles.
But that's not even the definition of child. You're
who
going
cares?
off of your
Who
own
cares, though?
definition.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Like, who cares? Yes.
I mean, Sneako's going off of his own definition as well, so.
Why? If 18 is the established point, you are out of high school going to college.
Oh my God.
If that is the point where everyone has agreed you are an adult past this point, why argue against it?
Why argue?
Why?
Because if the government decides.
Because I'm a free thinker, guys. That's why I believe in religion. I don't believe in this big bad government, because that's scary, and I don't want to give them too much authority. But this religious text that's thousands of years old, that was written, I'm going to believe in that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Don't think for yourself. I'm sure God didn't want you to think for yourself. I'm sure that he was like, yeah, just let me create a bunch of people to just not think for themselves.
It's to push the age of high school. If they tried to lower it, if they said that you can vote at a different age, then your morality changes based off of the law. And I'm saying that you need to have
Well, no, you could advocate to change that. What?
consistent morality that does not change with the government and that does not change with the people that live in your country. It has
Why?
to supersede that.
Why? Why can't you have a morality that can... Why can't you have moral structures and systems that exist that you're allowed to have conversations about?
You can't just say because of high school, because of college, this is the set in stone age forever.
Okay, set it.
Okay.
I want you, Sneako, to set an age in stone right now for the age of consent, age of marriage. What is that to you?
I told you that there is no age of marriage. It has to be
Now,
based
do you
off
see why that's a
maturity,
problem?
and it has to be based off of whether it's going to be harmful, and it has to be based off the consent of the parents.
We already know that in like every situation it will be harmful, so that's why we don't allow it.
It has to
Who
be
decides
healthy. If I want to marry a girl, I have to first ask her father. I have to ask her brother.
And the father's perfect. The father knows what's best for the child at all
And I have
times.
to ask her
Every father
mother,
knows.
and the daughter has to consent. If all three parties are consenting, and then my family
Didn't he just before he said that consent is a stupid thing and it doesn't really matter, and the dad should ultimately have control? Now he's changing that.
is consenting, that's fine.
That's not how it works in a lot of these places. In a lot of these places, it's like the kid doesn't have to be somebody who has a level of consent in there. It's always like, oh, the dad tells you to do something, and that's just how it is. What is he talking about?
That's what a marriage should be based upon.
Okay.
That's why they'll sell fucking kids to like these disgusting adults that are in these poor families. What are you talking about?
All that happens, and it's a 14-year-old. Now what?
If the 14-year-old is mature and I'm 16, say I went.
See? Stop letting him say 16 and 14. First of all, you probably shouldn't be getting kids to get married together because it's not going to set them up for positive outcomes, generally speaking. But second of all, stop letting him dictate the ages.
Through puberty as
You're
well.
not 16,
and
you're
I'm
in your
17 or I'm 18. See, the problem with this is that you have a specific idea of where the age is. But if I'm 17 and I'm mature and I meet a 14 or a 15-year-old and I'm okay, I'm mature, my family's okay.
Don't let him set the ages.
Hey,
Oh
I
my
asked the daughter.
God.
You're
I
not
asked
17,
the
you are
daughter's
in your
father for the
20s.
hand of marriage.
Don't say in your 20s. Holy fuck, this is infuriating. Just say ages, specific ages.
In your 20s.
I went on
Does
this
it
already.
change?
I went on this already.
Does it change?
Your scenario earlier was if a 16 and a 21-year-old, both parties were consent, if the father was okay with it, the mother was okay with it, why not?
Dude, just say 14 and fucking 25, Charlie. Holy fuck.
What? Give me a reason why tell me a reason why that's wrong. Because you're
One is
getting
a child, one is not a child. That's the point. So the 14-year-old, all of those criteria.
This is shocking that he's getting fucking rolled on this conversation.
Just check. You're in your 20s.
the definition that we just agreed upon. That's not true. Child is somebody that is not physically mature yet. It has nothing to
So he keeps saying physically mature. A child isn't somebody who's not physically mature, just to be clear. And physical maturity doesn't matter as much as mental maturity. That is very important. And there's also a conversation about emotional maturity, but that's really a kind of a drop down of mental. He keeps saying physical because he knows that these kids are not developed enough, and he's still running defense for it.
do
That
with
is not
18.
what we agreed upon. We agreed upon 18.
You agreed.
That's
We
not
didn't agree with
because
that.
we agreed at 18.
That's not true. That's not true across the whole world.
Like, sensible people.
Jesus fucking
Even
Christ.
your own community has agreed upon 18 for the most part. So I've seen a lot of the tweets when you go on these tangents. Most people say it should be 18, and Sneako's arguing that apart.
If Charlie's so bad at confrontation, then why did he try to confront Sneako and end just getting his ass handed to him? You want me to, like, my honest opinion? I think Sneako wanted to have this conversation with Charlie because he knew it would be kind of an easy win, because he had this exact same conversation with Destiny. He gets absolutely decimated, like the 13-year-old girls that he wants to be able to molest. And I think that the reason Charlie took it is because he figured, hey, this is probably an easy dunk, because like we're debating on whether you should fuck kids, and somehow it wasn't an easy dunk for him. It was Actually, fucking shockingly embarrassing for him.
Parts of the world are different, so it gets muddy. But the agreed upon for the majority of people is 18.
That's not true.
So
that's just not true across the world.
Just to be clear, before he said that it was because California says 18, that's why people think that that's acceptable across the world, and now he's changing it back. He started with most of the world doesn't think that, then he went to somehow most of the world does think that because of Hollywood, and now we're back to most of the world doesn't think that again. He's so inconsistent over and over and over again.
So you see when you argue against that, why it looks so weird. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand because people have been brainwashed with this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: people in Europe,
brainwashed into not fucking kids is crazy.
Brainwashing is concerning.
Okay, are people? So the majority of Europe is 16. Is everybody in Europe who abides by that, who abides by the law, are they pedophiles?
Yeah, in my eyes, 100%. And in European society, too.
Fine.
If you have someone in their 20s that is fucking and marrying a 16-year-old, they, too, are excommunicated.
No, not excommunicated.
Well, I mean, no. Well, morally, I think we're getting there. Somebody like Russell Brand, who seems to have had a relationship with a 16-year-old, has got some significant heat. But like we could say, hey, that should not be. You should be able to. You should get in trouble if you mess around with somebody under 18. Everywhere. We should make it. We should raise it.
Are they pedophiles?
Yeah.
No, you're not a pedophile if you fuck a 16-year-old at like 25 or whatever. It's still disgusting and wrong, but it's not technically a pedophile. Okay, but you have to have these technical conversations with Sneako because like he's pretending to try to be intellectual. So you have to have that conversation.
I would say yes.
They're pedophiles. Okay, so the majority of people that follow the law in Europe are pedophiles according to MoistCritical.
If
yes,
they are,
yes or no?
they're an adult fucking an under 18-year-old, even if it's 16 legally, I would say yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's just frankly, it's just like a dumb take. I don't even know what else to tell you. I think it's wrong morally, but since that's the acceptable, that's accepted in their society, you have to have a level of consideration for society, to your society's standards being ingrained in you because that's the environment you grew up in, right? If you live, and I think it's wrong, but if you grow up in an environment where it's like 16 is the age of consent to your society, that means that since you were 0 years old, you were being told that like, hey, this is okay as you learn about it. And so you wouldn't be considered a pedophile for that, especially when it comes to mental health things. Like that's very complicated. A lot of it is intentionality based. And if you're like, if it's not your intentionality to take advantage of that person, yeah, that would just anyway. I don't feel like getting into this whole fucking conversation. Like, but like, it's just not. I don't agree with that general take. I think it's wrong. I think it's inappropriate. But you have to take a society's morals into account.
Okay, and in America, the majority of the states, it's 16. Are those people?
I don't think that that's true.
People who follow the law of the land, are they pedophiles for following the? So the majority.
You keep saying the law of the land.
That's what it is. The majority of states, it's 16.
If I want you to right now, Sneako. If you go to any of those states where it's 16,
apparently that's true. As April 2021, 30 states have an age of consent of 16. That's fucking gross. Yeah, we need to increase that.
And you fuck a 16-year-old, it's statutory rape. It is still statutory rape. It doesn't apply.
I don't think so. Unfortunately, it seems to be like legal.
That's not what that means.
Romeo.
That's
Okay,
not how that works.
We went in circles. The Romeo and Juliet laws don't apply for most people, and even without that, even without the Romeo and Juliet laws, if it was 16 and all the countries that are 16, are those people pedophiles?
No.
As I just said, yes.
Okay.
In those countries too.
So fucking holy fuck, dude. This is embarrassing.
Okay. But do you
in
realize what
those
you're saying?
countries,
What you were saying?
those countries.
Most people who follow, what you're
Holy
saying,
fuck.
based off this logic, most people in the world are pedophiles if they follow the law.
Fucking Charlie just gave Sneako the like biggest ability to brag about this forever. He's gonna be like, "See, I owned MoistCritical," and it's so true. He's getting fucking washed out. Holy fuck.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
If the law is under 18, I would say yes.
Okay. So, but that's not the law because most of the world, as we established, most of the world is not 18. So you're saying if the majority of the world follows the law and they exercise their rights, they do exactly what they're good citizens, and they follow the law where it's 16, you are saying the majority of the world contains pedophiles. Even if they don't even act upon it, even if they agree that, okay, one day, maybe I could, out of wedlock, I could fuck a 16-year-old.
Because those
just the thought.
But yes, if there is an adult, as I've said many times, if there is an adult,
Holy
and I'm
fuck.
defining an adult as someone who is,
We know.
We'll go deeper.
We know. Oh my god.
We'll make it even simpler.
This is so bad.
If there's
This is so bad.
someone that is your age and they are fucking a 16-year-old.
Why my age now? I thought it was 18. I thought it was 18.
I just gave a number because you were.
But no, you gave a number earlier.
18.
You said 18.
18.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to make it easier. 18. If there is an adult that is fucking a 16-year-old, even
An 18 and 16-year-old, I no circumstance would ever be considered a pedophile. What is he talking about?
in a country where it says 16 is okay, then yes, absolutely. Now, in the case
Is this guy like? Hold on. Is he? Wait.
of the 18, just trying.
Why my age now? I thought it was 18. I thought it was 18.
I just gave a number because you were.
But no, you gave a number earlier.
18.
You said 18.
18. Yeah, I was just trying to make it easier. 18. If there is an adult that is fucking a 16-year-old, even in a country where it says 16 is okay, then yes, absolutely. Now,
Is he trying to say that if it was an 18 and a 16-year-old, that'd be a pedophile? There's no way that he's that fucking ignorant. Oh my god.
In the case of the 18-16
Charlie's too worried about having the correct take. Honestly, I'm starting to think that he's like afraid to have like an actual intelligent adult perspective on these topics. Because holy fuck, this is insane. This is insane.
that's where Romeo and Juliet kicks in.
This is really, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like this is really bad. This is a really bad conversation. When you're losing the page of consent conversation to somebody who thinks it's okay to sleep with kids, like that's when you know you got to stay away from these topics. This is fucking wild.
But if it is someone in their 20s, in their 30s, fucking a 16-year-old, that is literally statutory rape in pretty much everywhere in the world.
Right. Based off your logic, you realize this, that if a 19-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, they should go to jail. They're pedophiles.
That is Romeo and Juliet, unless it's an 18, then yeah.
Okay, good. So he doesn't think that like a 18, 16-year-old would be like, okay.
Wait till they're 18.
Okay, but a lot of states don't even have Romeo and Juliet. In Europe, they don't have that. The places, your Romeo and Juliet is an American thing. And
I mean, the reason that a lot of states don't have Romeo and Juliet laws is because like they wouldn't prosecute that in any capacity. Like that's the thing, is that like the Romeo and Juliet laws are typically created when they want to prosecute, or like when they feel like there's a need for it. But a lot of these states, they're just like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like we probably wouldn't fault a 17 and an 18-year-old or a 17 and a 19-year-old, so we don't really feel the need to have a law because like the prosecutors aren't going to engage on that. Just to be clear.
in the Europe, a lot of these places, if a 19-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, your logic, they should go to jail. Is that true?
No.
Yeah, I think.
Did you say yeah? Holy fuck, dude! Come on.
I think it is absolutely going to be one of those things where there's an agreed upon age.
That's just so stupid. Holy fuck. Holy shit.
If it's 18, it's
Oh
18.
my
So yes,
God.
a 19-year-old in a relationship with a 17-year-old should go to jail.
Well, no, okay. I guess it.
This is so bad.
Like I said, it will all depend on where that is located. So to give an example, Call Me Carson and that, I think it was a 17-year-old, I think he was 19 and 17.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a high school relationship. And I don't remember where that took place, but the big problem there is
It took place online. There was no big problem there at all. People virtue signal over that because they're a bunch of dumb fucks.
apparently he was getting nudes. That's child porn.
It doesn't matter at all. Just to be clear, okay, I don't care if a 17-year-old sends a 19-year-old their fucking tits. I don't care. Is it a legal problem? Maybe. I don't really care because it's not illegal for a 17 and 19-year-old to have sex. So why would I hold pictures to a lower standard than sex? I don't really care. And by the way, that's not the issue. The issue isn't, well, people were actually concerned because that's child porn. Nobody was concerned with that. What happened is everybody called me fucking groomer because idiot adults online decided to break this story irresponsibly and push this like fucking insanely. And then after these fucking idiots realized, like, oh, we're kind of wrong, they had to double down on something. Go, well, actually, it's technically this. It's like you don't believe that. It's people that are constantly going to. They're doubling down. They have their particular thought and their belief. They don't want to change on it, so they're just finding a new thing. Call Me Carson did absolutely nothing morally wrong in any capacity. Legally wrong? Maybe. I don't care. 17, 19 is never problematic. It's never going to be. I have no interest in that. That's stupid. Call Me Carson was a bad example. That guy got fucking cucked over absolutely nothing. The stupidest fucking dog shit. Thank you so much for $5 from Beanie Man 54. A high visibility debate between two people with zero relevant educational background. Yeah, it's a bad conversation for everybody involved. Yeah, true.
Like, that's a huge issue. 19 and 17, that's only a 2-year age gap. So that is applicable under things like Romeo and Juliet. So even if it is under 18 in the place you come from, that's an extenuating circumstance. But that's not what we're talking about. You keep bringing it back down to reasonable places. But what you argue for is things like when you legally can drive, you can legally get married and have sex.
Yes, when you are physically mature, when you're ready to drive a car, you should be.
Driving a car is not at the point of physical maturity. You have to take a test. So physical maturity is going to be a factor, but it's about a mental maturity. The mental maturity to understand traffic laws. And to be able, like, it's not. He keeps saying physical maturity.
Able to. There's a lot of people that have jobs that need to do things. So a lot of people aren't ready to drive cars. They're not physically. They're not mentally mature yet to drive a car. They shouldn't drive a car at 16. It should be based off maturity. The same thing has to do with sex. The reason I keep saying this.
15-year-olds can have sex with each other, Sneako. They don't have to fuck adults.
Because you have these set in stone numbers, and if you were to lay the laws of the land, if we follow your laws, if we follow your criteria, a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, he's consenting, she's consenting.
If those underage pics spread, that's why pics would be illegal. Well, that's revenge porn. That's like a totally separate topic of conversation, right?
The parents are happy, they're happy, they want to get married, they're ready to go. You're putting them in jail. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Because of this, because Juliet kicks in. Like, I don't know what's hard to understand about that. Places where that doesn't exist, I guess I'm not too familiar with how those. A lot of
places they don't. A lot of places they don't. And this is why it's arbitrary. So and based off your standards, when is the Romeo and Juliet? How long can that extend?
Those are teenagers. A 17 and a 19-year-old, those are both teenagers.
Okay, so you would generally go with like a number. So you'd probably say 4 or maybe 3, right? Like right now, maybe. I mean, it depends on the age. Like I don't know, dude. I would say I don't know. But you would generally say like 3 or 4 years. That's what you would do. But you can't just say they're teenagers, because a 13-year-old is also a teenager, just like a 17-year-old. And I do not think that is an acceptable age.
Okay, now they're teenagers, but you just said 18 was an adult.
Yes, they are.
You see how the definitions keep changing? They keep changing. So far in this conversation, you changed it so many times. You said 18's an adult. No, you said, but listen, because you did. I heard you double up a couple times.
I know what you're going to harp on here.
No, you did. You said 18's an adult.
Yes, he's harping on the semantics of the word teen at the end of it.
And then you said adults, like you. Because you think 25 is an adult now. Because that's when you're. Why? So why is? Let me ask you this. Why is it not 20? Why is it not 25?
It's because that's not what was established. Like,
it's not 25 because we as a society have not felt the need to advocate for a raising of the age of consent to 25. Right? That's pretty much it. It could happen and change. It doesn't really seem like it's going to happen, at least not anytime soon, right? Because then you'd have to start taking agency away from those 18-year-olds, and those 18-year-olds wouldn't want that agency to be taken away from them, right? But that's when it would change. It would change, and it wouldn't go to 25 from 18. It might go to like 19 potentially, but that's when it would change.
No, I'm asking you because you believe in personal beliefs. I believe in some. My morality comes from the Quran. You believe in personal beliefs. Why is it not 25? 25 is when the frontal cortex is fully developed. That's when you're done maturing.
I couldn't tell you why it's not 25. I have no clue. I don't know why the drinking.
You don't have to be fully mature. First of all, I don't think that's true. I think it's continuously goes. But like, let's say it's true that it's fully developed. It doesn't matter if something is fully done or fully developed. What matters is if you've hit a threshold of the ability to understand particular scenarios. That's what matters.
The age is 21. I don't know, but they are agreed upon rules.
They're agreed upon rules, just like the drinking age, just like the voting age. They're agreed upon rules, and a lot of them don't make any sense. Why is drinking 21?
18, but I do think 18 does. There is a good reason for it. You are out of high school. You are going to live on your own. You're going to college. I think that is a good reason.
Yeah, maybe in the 1980s, but nowadays people don't leave the house until 24, 25, until they're my age. A lot of people don't. People are not financially ready. People are still immature. There's 18.
So, like, just to be clear, because this is a conversation to engage with, there is a conversation to have about people in the West possibly being less mature for their age than other people in other countries based on the, we'll say, stimulation that they're given, right? Like, if you're in the workforce at 16, you might be more mentally mature than an 18-year-old who never worked a job in their life and they're still in high school, blah, 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 blah. It is definitely possible, for sure. I think it's a factor to consider. I think a lot of that comes from, though, the fact that it's difficult to move out on your own because we have a pretty fucked economy right now. It's just difficult to leave the house. Houses are just so fucking expensive, and that absolutely does take there's something to that is a factor, generally speaking. But for the most part, you're still going to be mentally where you're at. You might have more, like, if we do, like, let's say, what do we want to do? Knowledge and wisdom? No, let's just say, I don't even know what you would separate this into. But there's going to be a life experience factor, but there's always also going to be a developmental experience factor. And you can't be mature beyond a massive amount. Like, no 16-year-old is at the mental maturity of a 30-year-old because they worked a job for a year. It's just not how it works, right? So, like, yeah, that 16-year-old might be, like, as mature as, like, an immature 18-year-old. Okay, but at the end of the day, most people are going to stick within a reasonable range, and the reality is that those Romeo and Juliet laws, those socially acceptable like 3 or 4 year age gaps, are going to shore up any more or less mature person. But there's never an instance where somebody who's like 16 is going to be prepared to be able to be with a 30-year-old person, right? So just to be clear. So it doesn't have that much of a factor.
18-year-olds I know that are more mature than people my age, and there's 25-year-olds that are more immature than 18-year-olds. It's arbitrary now. It depends.
And it's not just about maturity, it's about the ability to be able to make decisions and have agency over yourself. Like, you can be immature and still have agency over yourself. Maturity isn't like the number one defining factor, just to be clear.
It's on personal experience. It depends on individual maturity.
But there needs to be something defined in your rule here.
And I'm saying there is something defined. I'm saying there is.
14-year-old in your...
It's when they physically have nice boobs, because as long as they're physically mature, guys, it's okay.
Your definition could literally marry an adult. That's a problem. In your world, a 14-year-old can marry an adult.
Yeah,
stop saying adult, dude. Give us an age.
In my world, two 14-year-olds can be adults. I'm telling you,
why that's weird.
Two 14-year-olds, you don't think that two 14-year-olds can be married?
Well, they shouldn't be, because there's no way they would come to that conclusion themselves without being forced into some kind of arranged marriage scenario, which can be very abusive.
No, absolutely not. No. Under no circumstances do I think two 14-year-olds can marry.
Can two 16-year-olds?
Let alone a 14 and a 20-year-old or whatever.
Okay, can two 16-year-olds be married?
No, I don't think
Why is it wrong if so a 16-year-old, because the age of consent is across the world, so many places 16, if they can go have frivolous sex with a lot of people, if they can go fuck around, if they can do deviant things, if they can change their gender, why can they not
Deviant things like change your gender as you advocate for kids to get raped by adults in fucking grooming marriages is incredible.
get married? Sex change, like Chris from Mr. Beast, these people can take hormone blockers.
Listen, so much.
You can't change your sex. You can just change your gender. Just to be clear.
You're not listening. This is the point. You can take hormone blockers. You can take puberty blockers. Okay, when you're a child. When you're 16, you can go change your gender.
So you should be okay with this then. So this is what he's saying. What he's trying to do is say like, okay, well, if a 16-year-old can get change their gender, we're just going to use his language, then why can't a 16-year-old also get married? Good question. So that by that logic, that means that you think that it's okay to be trans. Like I don't understand. Like what's your logic there? You're saying if a 14-year-old can be an adult by your logic, you literally just said 14-year-olds can be adults, then I guess 14-year-olds are old enough to make the decision to transition. Well, okay.
But you can't get married? Why is that?
What that's I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty obvious question.
No, it's not. It's not. See, if you cut your penis off, like Chris from Mr. Beast, if you cut your penis off, that is a life-altering decision. You can't glue it back on. You can get
nobody cuts their penis off. Just to be clear, some people can get bottom surgery, where you effectively push it inside of you. To my knowledge, there's nobody under the age of 18 who gets bottom surgery specifically. If it happens, it's extraordinarily rare, but I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that in the United States. There's different levels that you're allowed to go with based on your, how long you've been diagnosed for and whatnot. But I think I've seen people as young as 16 get top surgery. But like bottom surgery is like I don't think ever is under 18. I could be wrong about that, and I can be uncomfortable with people getting surgeries. Absolutely, we can have conversations about like how far is too far to transition. Like I'm okay with socially transitioning, which just means like, hey, you identify as something, right? Hormone blockers, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I mean, I feel very uncomfortable. Like I said, that there are people, there are statistics, there's data that has been collected over the past, we'll say like 40 years, really, about the correct treatment methods of people with gender dysphoria, and transitioning happens to be part of that. And like, could that change? Absolutely. I've said this before, but right now, in order to have the best outcomes, you would follow those particular standards and metrics. So
divorce if you get married.
It's irreversible nonetheless. I mean, I think that's the point, though, right? Just to be clear, I think the point is for it to be irreversible. I think that these people are looking for irreversible changes to their body. The issue isn't whether or not it is or isn't irreversible. The issue is how often do they regret that? And I believe it is like a 1% detransition rate. So that's really what matters more than anything else.
The commitment that you're taking. A child, based off of the liberal point of view that you believe in, they can have gender surgery. They can change forever.
Liberal point of view, dude. Oh, fuck. I'd rather live in a society that allows a very, very, very small amount of people with gender dysphoria to get to transition, rather than a society where it's okay to rape kids. Sorry.
He lagged out.
Damn, he should have just pretended that he was gone. Just lag out forever, brother. Okay. You should need to have a license to have sex? That's crazy work, brother. That's crazy work.
1 sec.
Let's see.
Everyone is.
All right, they're back now.
Hello?
Hey, you back?
Yep.
You should have just pretended your internet cut out there.
Okay. I don't want to miss this line. Are you good? Can you turn the camera on and off? Oh no, you're good. You're good. Okay.
Wait. Okay.
Okay, you're good. If somebody can have, do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
If they're a child, no. As a teenager, based on the data we have, that the outcomes are overwhelmingly positive for people who are correctly identified to have gender dysphoria, that's between their doctor and their parent, but not a child. Okay, just to be clear.
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
Okay, so as long as everyone,
if your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a family decision to make. Yeah.
Okay, so a child can cut their penis off and take hormone.
Okay, so nobody cuts their penis off ever as well, unless they're fucking. It's a bottom surgery. It's not cutting your penis off, just to be clear. And there is no. I'm pretty sure there's no one under 18 getting that done. So
blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married.
Oh, that's
by your logic, you would say all that is acceptable, but Okay.
decision that now extends beyond the family, because now you're bringing in a different party. So if you have someone that's your age coming in saying, I want to marry that child, I don't think that can happen under any.
Well, actually, he's not wrong about this. He's talking about how, like, if the person who wants to marry the child now has a significant advantage when it comes to the power dynamic inside of that relationship, whereas somebody who might want to get some kind of like surgery or really just say treatment for gender dysphoria, that's not introducing a person that like to take advantage of somebody else, right? Like that doctor isn't there to like force you to transition. That's not how it works. The doctor is there to try to guide you into getting the right treatment for you. It doesn't even mean transitioning all the time. It just means getting the right treatment for you based on like a multitude of complex factors. So that's not true. Highest suicide rate is amongst these people, though, that are successful. That's not true. That is based on a study from 2003. That is based on a study from 2003 that has been updated exponentially. So just to be clear, you're referencing a study that is over 20 years old. That is not the standard anymore. That is the Swedish study that says that. I appreciate you for not understanding that, but like that is not the case. You've heard that in a talking point from a fucking idiot that references a study that is over 20 years old. That is not the case. And when it comes to science, newer sciences, things change frequently as more data comes out. That's why when I say it's the best treatment method based on today's statistics, what we have known now, because it could change, I'm acknowledging that at the end of the day, unfortunately, we can operate to the best of our ability based on all the data that we have. But until we start operating based on that data, we will not be able to collect new data to see what is more effective. Just so that you know. Just so that you know.
Circumstance.
So, but it's still a personal decision. You're still deciding.
Because there's
take the other party out of the equation. It's a personal
decision.
If I'm 16 and I personally want to marry this girl, she's beautiful. She's 21 years old. Her family wants to do it. My family wants to do it. You're saying I can't do that. We're both consenting. I'm ready to.
Yes, I'm saying that.
Go. I'm physically mature, but I'm not allowed to marry because Moist says that woman's a pedophile. But
no, it wouldn't be a pedophile, but that's a pretty inappropriate age gap, I would say.
If then the next day I leave it, I'm depressed, I want to cut my penis off, I can go right into the clinic.
No, that's not how it works. It takes quite a while to be able to push forward with treatment methods, and it's usually escalates. So it starts small, and then it goes like it's usually as minimalistic as it needs to be for somebody to be happy. Just to be clear, when somebody gets like some kind of treatment for gender dysphoria, it's not give them as much as possible right away. It's like let's start slow and get you to a comfortable level. And the general goal is to try to get people to do the least amount of changes possible for the best outcomes. You just take it like progressive steps based on how much they may need, and it takes quite a while for you to do that.
Snip it off and start taking HRT like Chris Tyson. That's a society that makes sense to you?
Okay.
It is. I believe everyone has I believe everyone has the right to do with their body what they want to do.
Okay, so everyone has the right to do with their body, but not when it comes to a sacred marriage where they have kids.
I mean, the way that MoistCritical is allowing this to be framed is not helping him.
Where they add to society.
No longer just you.
That is your body.
Bringing someone in.
Okay, you're still bringing in.
You can literally just turn it around, be like, okay, so then you're okay with people transitioning. Just turn that around like that. See how you feel about that.
And the doctor to use the scissors to snip off your penis.
That's not how it works.
He's not there for the rest of your life. He's not constantly there at your fucking house monitoring you.
You don't need to be there. You're not glued to your wife. You're not there like Siamese twins. You are
a 16-year-old. You are entirely reliant on this adult that you've now brought in.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are actually. And in your society, it's not okay to get divorced. So you're especially bound to this person.
I can tell parents, maybe I'm making my own money. I'm not relying. If I'm 16 and I marry a 21-year-old and I'm making a lot of money and I'm doing well and I'm independent, I'm not relying upon her.
Well, you're also in a scenario where it would be a regressive relationship where the man has most of the power anyway. So that power dynamic doesn't necessarily exist. It's still inappropriate. Like, just to be clear, if you're like the man typically has more of the power. So in these regressive societies, because we're not talking about this under like a Western lens where men and women are equal. We're talking about under these like societies where they're much more regressive, where these arranged marriages typically benefit the man more than the woman. And the man is the one that gets ultimate like control and say. Like in these countries, women are not seen as equal. They do not have the same equal rights in a lot of these instances. They don't necessarily vote. They're not allowed to go to like college in many of these instances. It's okay to rape them in the marriages. So like it's significantly less likely to have some kind of harm done onto you if you are the 16-year-old boy married to a 21-year-old girl in these countries, and then the opposite. Either way, it's wrong. We understand that in America that would be very wrong because a 16-year-old boy can still be under the same threat as a 16-year-old girl because we do not have those one-sided power dynamics when it comes to our legal system and structure. So, yeah.
Not only that, the person that you just put through transgender therapy, now they need to go to therapy once a week. Now they need to go to the pharmacist once a week. Look how many people are.
So just to be clear, that first of all, I don't pharmacist once a week. You're just I don't even know how to contend with that. You'd usually go once a month, and it's like a 10-minute trip. It's not that big of a deal. Second of all, these are people that would have an issue regardless, so not getting treatment would be worse for them when it comes to their outcomes.
Evolved now. Now they're going to therapy groups. Now they're online. They're making YouTube videos. They're in a Mr. Beast challenge. This person is relying on so many people, and they also have. You're cutting out again.
The tactical cutout. The tactical cutout, dude.
You're cutting out.
Just stay gone, dude. Just stay gone.
Chat, is it me or him?
Chat, is it me?
Why? I want to hear a clear answer that makes sense. Because you said it's because you're relying on other people. But I've established that a trans person is relying on the pharmacist, is relying on the therapy.
I didn't say that. I didn't say relying. I said you are making a personal decision yourself. You are making a decision for you. When you are making a decision about marriage, you're bringing someone else in that is now not just you.
Just because you're bringing someone else in does not change the fact that it's a personal decision. Marriage is it's consent. It is deciding yes, regardless of the other person. But it's still a personal decision.
I mean, generally speaking, we have the understanding of that these marriages can set you up for like really generally abusive power dynamics, and it's so okay, yeah. I mean, again, I don't really care about two 16-year-olds fucking or potentially getting married. I don't think arranged marriages are good because those definitely going to lead to abuse and transactional relationships where it's like, okay, you can marry my daughter if you give me this much money. We're talking about like adults and minors.
Possibly wrap their head around this adult that has been preying on them. Like, I don't know why you can't see that. A 16-year-old can't be making this decision on this adult who is convincing them that I am the right choice for you for life.
Right. But a 9-year-old boy can go into a clinic and decide that doctor, that 40-year-old doctor could cut my penis off?
No, that does not happen ever. Again, nobody gets bottom surgery under 18, pretty sure. It's much more complicated than like, I think this way, do this to me. When it comes down to this, this is a deep evaluation based on medical professionals who went to school for over 10 years to be able to diagnose and treat these issues based on like an individual basis. You don't walk in at 9 years old and say, I'm trans, LOL, and go through some kind of transition. That simply does not happen. It is much more complicated than that. It's much more nuanced than that. It's dealt with somebody whose job is to facilitate these situations. And you should always get a second opinion.
If that's a decision he and his family wants to make.
It's like, what are you talking about? Nobody in their right mind would be like, it's okay for a 9-year-old to get their fucking to have bottom surgery. Why would you just say, yeah, okay, as long as that's okay? That just shows like a profound lack of understanding of like what it comes to people's gender dysphoria.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay.
That, to me, like this is the problem. Like if you are okay, in my opinion, if you're okay with a 9-year-old going into a clinic and getting a doctor to be like, okay, we're gonna give you bottom surgery, you're good, and you're okay with that, that shows me that you have no interest in the actual safety of a young person, because no, that's preposterous. I don't think there's any world where I'd ever be okay with that. There is a world where I'm okay with a young person getting diagnosed, potentially socially transitioning and taking it piece by piece, but bottom surgery at 9 is insane. And it shows that like you're more interested in just kind of, in my opinion, accepting whatever you're told is the status quo rather than questioning it and coming to a reasonable conclusion based on those questions that you've had. Right? Like, this is what?
Okay. So then, why is it that bringing someone else into that marriage, why does that then make it wrong?
Jesus
because
Christ.
It could be an adult with a child, which is that is an unacceptable dynamic under every possible circumstance.
In the doctor's office, in that gender therapy forever, it's still an adult and a child cutting off the penis, Moist.
You are not living with that fucking doctor. You have made a decision.
You're living with the decision of that doctor to cut the penis.
Well, no, you could actually change doctors. I guess I kind of understand what point he's making. Holy fuck.
It's still living with the decision of another person too.
And that's life. You live with decisions. Some people might
okay, this doesn't look very good for him.
regret it, sure. But with this marriage with an adult, that is a decision that is now, once they are in your life, it can be out of your hands. You can have this.
Like, what he really just has to say is like, hey, this will help his argument a little bit. His argument's still fucked, but hey, you can change your doctors, but you're not like, in the culture you're advocating for, you're not allowed to get divorced. So
adult come in and just start beating the shit out of you. You can have all kinds of things. When you're with getting your penis cut off, you have made a decision.
Okay.
Nobody gets their fucking penis cut off. Why are you engaging with this conversation? Nobody gets their penis cut off. Bottom surgery is not cutting off your penis. I think it helps to be at least a little bit informed on what you're talking about.
What you're saying, you can get beat up? You can still get beat up out of marriage.
You absolutely can. But a child is never going to be thinking about things like that because they can't. A child can't consent to marrying an adult.
So why is a child smart enough to decide that he's now a woman that needs puberty blockers and cutting his penis off?
They're not smart enough to make that decision. That's why they have to see a person that's gone to school for over 10 years to be with that. It knows how to read data and studies with the help of their parents. And still, it's a complicated process. So, just to be clear.
But he can't decide upon marrying somebody that he's in love with.
How does he know he's in love with them?
The same, it's a feeling. It's something that you know. You talk to your family, you decide.
I very highly doubt that a bunch of 12-year-olds are in love with each other and like, yeah, I can't wait to get married. They're usually being forced by their parents for some kind of transactional issue and not allowed to get divorced. We understand that these lead to bad outcomes. Bad marriages lead to abuse. Forced marriages lead to abuse. There's a reason why they're illegal in the United States, because they lead to abuse. They have bad outcomes. Outcomes are very important. We know that because we've seen studies of these bad outcomes. Thank you for the $2 from International Failure. So you're pro transition, Sneako? I think so. It sounds sounds like it. Well, no, what he'll say is, well, no, God said that's bad, so no, it's bad. Like, that's all he'll say.
How does a child
being in love with an adult?
Yes, I talk to
a sensible family.
Yes, I'm 16. I meet a 21-year-old woman. I say,
don't let him stop. Okay.
Mom, Dad, I'm in love with this girl. I want to marry her. I feel like I'm in love. She's the right person for me. I want to do it. She's like, yes, yes, yes. Everyone's good. But that same a 9-year-old could say, Mom, Dad,
That's true. Age of marriage was lower in old times because people's life expectancy was far lower. That is, I'm sure, a factor. Also, again, they engaged in arranged marriages because it was beneficial to families, not because people were in love or happy. So a lot of times it was like, okay, your family has a resource, my family has a resource. Let's marry our kids together, even though they don't want to. Okay, so that we can share these resources. A lot of times it was using people as like a literal currency. It was using people as currency. That's why we got rid of these things, because they're abusive. That's really what it boils down to.
I want to cut my penis off, and you're going to say that's good. But a 16-year-old who feels in love, who's ready to commit, who's financially independent, that person cannot get married.
A 16-year-old will never be financially independent, A, and B.
Well, it depends on your country, but okay.
You see my whole team. Do you know how many people that I work with that are financially ready?
Whoa.
You work with a lot of 16-year-olds?
Yes, I do.
Financially ready?
I work with the person who runs my Telegram. I have clippers. I have a lot of teenagers who are making more than my professors. They are ready. They're
That's a little interesting.
mentally. These people are mature. They're boxing every single day. They are more mature than a lot of the 24-year-olds I know that I went to school with that are still in their hometown doing.
So basically, they clip Sneako stuff and make money, and that makes them very mature. I very highly doubt they are mature. They're probably extraordinarily immature, but they have the pathway to a very easy money because they're doing clips for Sneako, and since they're young, they're very impressionable. Okay. Great stuff.
Nothing, eating popcorn every day, and cutting their dick off like you believe. These people are ready to go because maturity changes for different people. For you to decide that a kid could cut his penis off but he can't get married makes absolutely no sense, and that's a society that crumbles.
Nobody can cut their penis off.
That's a society that allows them. That's your incest.
The society that flourishes is the one where a 14-year-old can marry someone in their 20s, Sneako. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Marriage is how society progresses because you need to create more life. Children should only be within a marriage. They should only be conceived within a marriage, where they're not going around sleeping with different people, where they're not confused, where they're not a part of the community that has the highest suicide rate. They should not be a part of that. I want to be in a society full of happy married people.
I wish your community had the highest suicide rate, Sneako. Again, the reason why those rates are higher in some communities is because there's a lot of mental anguish. Part of it's because of the lack of acceptance from people like Sneako onto those individuals. So with that, when you're consistently bullying a group of people and calling it degenerate for them to be trans, when that's not something that they have a control over, yeah, they might feel that might hurt their mental health a little bit, especially if we have a rule structure that's organized around oppressing those people and like demeaning those people. But yeah, cool beans, brother.
That are ready to have children, that are God-fearing.
Those happy married people are sometimes, in your world, 14, 15, 16 years old.
Absolutely. If they are ready, to get married, but see, you're so hung.
I mean, it's so interesting. Charlie should say they're not happy. They're being forced into those relationships. Just make that point.
Up on the fact that it could be an older person. Okay. If a 16-year-old is fine, what if a 16-year-old meets another 16-year-old in a place?
We've already gone over that.
Okay. In a place where the age consent is 16, which is most of the country, right? Let's go off that. There's no Romeo and Juliet laws. Two 16-year-olds meet. They want to fuck. Can they do that?
In a place where the age of consent is 16, if it's two 16-year-olds, yeah, absolutely.
Can they get?
It doesn't really need to be. The age of consent doesn't need to be 16 for two 16-year-olds to fuck each other. I don't care.
That's never what we've been talking about.
Can they get married?
What?
If it's
I guess if they really wanted to with their parents' consent, they can just wait till they're an adult, which is probably better.
For them to marry at 16, sure they can.
No, it's not. In America, you have to be 18 to get married.
Okay, then no, they can't get married until they're old enough to get that marriage because their parents are going to be part of the factor. Like, I'm pretty sure two 16-year-olds can get married if both parents consent to it. But yeah.
Then wait. Then they should wait.
Okay, so they're both pedophiles?
What the fuck? No, there's no adult in that situation. They're both the same age.
The point that, see, this is where it goes back. The point I'm making.
What? That was the stupidest fucking thing that Sneako's ever said. What?
Is that you cannot follow the law. You cannot rely upon the government or these arbitrary numbers. The reason you believe
they're not arbitrary. We came up with them as a society.
18 is because you live in America right now where the age is 18. If you lived
you do too, though.
No, I don't.
You just said you wouldn't. So you don't believe it's 18. So you're gonna go fuck a 15.
This is not my personal preference, Moist. That has nothing to do with my personal preference.
Well, answer that question. You just said you don't. Are you gonna go fuck a 15-year-old in a place?
He's not the predator, guys. He just runs defense for them. Okay.
That is not my. I don't want to have.
Just say yes or no.
No, I do not have sex out of wedlock. I've repeated this before. My point is.
You had plenty of sex out of wedlock. When you were sexually active, would you have gone and fucked a 15-year-old?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So
I guarantee that he has sex out of wedlock. He's lying. It's fucking hilarious, though.
Then you two also still abide by
because we believe in abiding the laws of. We don't break the law, but you're applying the law of the land to morality, and that's where things get confused because
the law of the land and morality are intertwined.
Morality is not defined based off the government.
Yes, it is.
If we follow morality, if we follow morality defined based off the government, then we would say that the war that's happening in Israel and Palestine is justified because the government is sending billions of dollars there.
Yeah. Yes.
Cannot rely on the government upon that because the government can be flawed. Morality.
I think it is. So just to be clear, I'm just going to give you like a real quick take on Israel-Palestine that people are probably going to be a little upset about. Nobody would care if it wasn't white Western people involved in this topic. Other countries, like other surrounding Middle Eastern countries, they are starving their own people. They are using gas weapons on their own people that would violate every single fucking humanitarian law that exists in the entire world. They are murdering their people at higher rates than what's going on in Israel and Palestine. And what's happening there is fucked up, but it's no worse and probably a little, unfortunately, better than what other countries do to their own people. The only reason you care is because we have a Western force of people that are involved. And we live in a Western society that's very critical of other Western people and not very critical of non-Western people. That's why they don't really seem to care too much about gay people getting oppressed in other countries or killed or murdered or, marital rape or any of these other issues that are going on or other genocides that are going on in people's own countries or in Africa or anything else. And that's like really what a big factor is. Like, let's be fucking real. Like, keep it consistent. If you're going to criticize Israel, why aren't you criticizing like fucking Yemen or whatever to the same degree? Just to be clear, if you're going to have this energy for Israel, do it. Where is it for every other country genociding their own fucking people, using gas weapons on their own people, literally starving, where people are actually being starved to death worse than what's happening inside of Gaza? Where's the energy for, they're not fucking white Western people, and you don't have a fucking a rage boner for it. Go criticize them. It's called the racism of lowered expectations, when you set lower expectations on people because for what reason? Why? Why is it okay for them to kill their people in their own country, but it's not okay for Israel to fight? Be consistent. Be against both of them. You guys aren't against both of them. It seems more like moral masturbation than actually caring. It's very bizarre to me. It's very strange. Like, it's fucked up. These people, there should be a higher expectation of the Western forces. Okay, maybe, but people are still dying, right? You realize that like people are still getting starved in their own countries, in surrounding countries, and you don't seem to care because the United States is not involved. Like, what's going on here? So it's like, let's like maintain this energy here. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. So if you're not going to give a fuck about that, then why the fuck are you pretending to give a shit about Israel and Palestine? I don't know what else to tell you.
Does not come from these people that are elected. Morality,
because they're still developing. So it's okay to use gaseous weapons and starve your own people and rape women in relationships and stop women from going into fucking to go out without a chaperone because they're regressive. It's okay to use it's okay to fucking starve your own people to death because they're regressive. I think that's a little stupid. That's not a regressive. That is fucking murdering your own people, and you don't care. Maybe you don't care because why? Like, are you guys more interested in like what the fuck is going on here? I just feel like that's crazy to me.
Morality comes from God. That's the only place that it can come from. Because if you were around, if you follow your logic, if you were around people, all of them that thought incest was okay, that thought bestiality was okay, you would follow it because you follow the people that are around. That's the only reason you believe 18, because that's what you see in Hollywood movies. Because that's what the government
Hollywood's fucking manipulating us into thinking it's okay to fuck kids.
told you as an adult, not because it's something a personal.
It is the agreed upon age.
But you keep saying that it's not even agreed. That's not true. Wait, it's not even. Go down. It's not even agreed upon. And nowhere.
It is. It is though. Most people. If you right now, have you had sex with a 16-year-old as an adult, Sneako?
No, I have not.
Okay. If you did, how do you think people would respond to it, even in your own community? If you said that you had sex with a 16-year-old,
They would be completely disgusted.
Exactly, because most people agree at a certain level needs to be established, and that level is 18. So.
Wait, I'm looking it up. Apparently in Islam, it's okay to marry your cousin. So incest is okay, and is not your sister or brother, but your cousin. So that's a little fucking weird, buddy. So you're saying that that's okay because God said so?
Under no circumstances should a 14, 15, 16-year-old be getting married and having sex with an adult.
Okay, let's go to the Dr. Disrespect situation because there was a lot of hypocrisy, right? He messaged a 17-year-old.
That's not true. Show me the evidence of him messaging.
I haven't seen any evidence. See, all the streamers within every.
Yeah, so let's give a quick rundown on the Dr. Disrespect situation. So here's the situation. He got removed from Twitch, and then there were some people behind the scenes eventually saying, hey, he was interacting with a minor, he was trying to sex with a minor. Dr. Disrespect comes forward, gives us his message. There was no established age of the minor, by the way. Says, yeah, I was talking to a minor multiple times, he said, inappropriately, which we know is a dog whistle for just saying like he was sexting that person, because if he was just sending them poopy fart jokes, he wouldn't have said I was talking to them inappropriately. He would have said I was sending them poopy fart jokes with intention of meeting up at TwitchCon. Pretty obvious that this is somebody who wanted to, at 35 years old, meet up with somebody who was under 20 or under 18, possibly 16 or younger, maybe 17, we don't really know, with the intent of some kind of sexual intercourse. We have it from his own mouth. If you're not stupid, you would be able to decipher those messages. It's not particularly difficult to do. Okay, when the Chris Tyson situation, we have somebody who was, when they were like in their 20s, were sending extraordinarily inappropriate jokes in a time on the internet where those jokes were more acceptable to people who were minors. Definitely wrong. I've been in scenarios where I made sexual jokes with adults too when I would play online video games and shit. I don't think it's acceptable by today's metrics or standards. I don't even necessarily think Chris Tyson should have a platform because it's inappropriate and irresponsible and could be used to normalize sexual conversations with kids to groom them. But we've seen zero substantial evidence that shows that like they're actually a groomer. So Dr. Disrespect is worse, just to be clear. And frankly, I don't think anybody would give a shit if Chris Tyson wasn't trans. I'm not saying it's okay because they're trans. I'm saying that you wouldn't care if they weren't trans. Because I've been seeing lists of people that are that used to have an association with Shadman, the fucking lolicon incest weird fuck, that are following that person. There's a whole collection of them on Twitter. None of those people are getting called out in any meaningful capacity. It's like, okay, interesting. So what Dr. Disrespect did was worse, and what Sneako is doing is worse than what Chris Tyson is, because Sneako is justifying raping kids, just to be clear, putting them in grooming scenarios, forcing them to marry adults. That's worse than anything Chris Tyson has ever done, just to be clear. And he's using religion as a way to justify disgusting behavior.
All the streamers within your community, they were so quick to admonish Dr. Disrespect without seeing any evidence at all.
We saw tons of evidence. We saw literally Dr. Disrespect admit it, so that's good enough evidence there.
Chris Tyson, and then they waited 3 days like you to post a video.
I did it within like 6 hours.
No, you didn't. If you
I did.
Okay, if you
What are
decided
talking about? The full video came out less than 24 hours after the initial break of all of the information, and I had that first video going.
how long did it take for the Dr. Disrespect video to come out?
Over 24 hours.
Did it? How long did it take for you to tweet?
And in the first
Yeah,
video,
I remember as things were coming out, I don't even think Charlie covered it. I didn't cover it until I had him saying it himself. Every day I'd go on stream and be like, oh, you talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I don't have anything actually tangible other than it's some people saying some stuff. And then when Dr. Disrespect admitted it, I was like, okay, we could finally talk about it. And we did. So, like, yeah, more information needed to come out. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
How long did it take you to tweet?
times how there's no concrete evidence of who he was talking to.
How long did it take you to tweet?
I waited till his second response, so that was 3 days later.
It was 3 days. You didn't tweet right away?
Nope.
Okay, then you were the outlier, and most streamers, all of them, they waited. They didn't say anything. They wanted the Mr. Beast collab. But that's besides the point. MoistCritical.
Okay.
If you DM'd a girl that was 17 years old, 364 days, should everybody be discussing with you?
I think that would be pretty disgusting. Yeah, I don't
With the intent to sleep with them? Yeah, that'd probably be wrong. Yes.
think you should be communicating with someone under 18 no matter what.
Okay.
That's a dumb take. Just to be clear, there are scenarios where it's okay to communicate with somebody who is under 18. Okay, they're generally more limited, but like they can exist. If you're playing fucking Call of Duty and somebody that you're playing with is like 16 years old, it does not matter as long as you're not trying to fucking sit there and like fuck them or something and have an inappropriate conversation with them. It's perfectly fine to be like, hey, you want to play a game with somebody or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, there are scenarios where it's like okay to talk to somebody. Not every instance of you talking to somebody who's underage is going to be you trying to fuck them. If that is the case, then you're weird. I don't know what to tell you. But there are limited scenarios. Like, there's teachers. It's okay for them to talk to people that are like underage. If you're playing a video game, it's okay to talk to people that are like under the age of 18. Okay, you shouldn't be having fucking super personal conversations or making inappropriate jokes. But it's okay to talk to them. It's okay to interact with kids without like literally being afraid you're going to rape them. Like, it's okay to chill the fuck out for a second. Thank you so much for the $5 from Justin. You should look into Chris Tyson's situation more. There was some info leaked in the Kiwi Farms real DMs, which are wild. I think Chris is worse. What are the DMs? Because what I saw in the DMs were like him having like fucking like his Discord trying to bomb out like all the fucking like edgy jokes and like weird shit in there. Are you saying that there's like actual legitimate evidence of him or her, excuse me, trying to like actually groom somebody, like explicit conversation?
It's not. Is that disgusting?
Yeah, I think it's disgusting.
You wait a day.
Like Cody Co having sex with Hannah when she's 17, I think that's disgusting.
Okay, say she's 17 years old, 364 days. He waits one more day. Is he still disgusting?
I still think in that position, yeah. I think that's still a huge power dynamic issue that he's getting into with that one. But
wait. That's disgusting. But I thought you said 18 was an adult.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, now we're talking about this conversation about like if he's talking to this. I mean, there's so many factors potentially there in this hypothetical scenario where like you're waiting for somebody to turn into an adult before you sleep with them. It's like, okay, so you slept with them the second they turned 18. Well, what were your conversations like beforehand? It sounds like you were legitimately grooming them. There's a lot of information going on here, but okay.
It is. Like, you're not going to jail.
Okay, so now it's disgusting for two adults to have sex?
It's disgusting for someone to be using this kind of position.
It's extraordinarily concerning when you are interacting with somebody and the second that who's underage and the second they turn 18 you have sex with them. Like that communicates to me that there was some kind of an ulterior motive going on beforehand where you were planning to try to have sex with them and potentially groom them, which is a problem. right? So, like, okay, this should be a pretty easy answer to have there, Moist. Thank you for the $5 from Lucas. You should research the Mr. Texify allegations. Maybe I will. I don't really know what that is.
In the example you're giving, that's a power
Okay,
dynamic issue.
but so Cody Cole waits one more day, then they have sex, and he's still disgusting, but it's two adults. Why is that disgusting?
People are still, like, I would be upset hearing that. Cody Ko was in a different position than Tana at the time, and he was also in a much different place. And even if he waited till 18, while it's not illegal, it still wouldn't be a good thing. It's not something to celebrate.
Not celebrate, but you think it's disgusting. You think it's reprehensible.
I think it would be a bad thing, for sure. Yeah, I don't think it would be a good thing.
Is he a pedophile?
No.
No, he would not be a pedophile.
Okay,
And I also...
okay, he's not a pedophile. The day before.
No, it's not how pedophilia works.
17, 364 days. Is he a pedophile?
No, I think, yes.
Yes?
Let's just use, we're going to use a green
Okay.
definition.
We just have like people that just don't know the definitions of words talking to each other. What the fuck is happening here? They need a teacher involved? This is fucking insane.
You don't wait till 18. If you don't wait till 18, you will just do pedophile.
There you go.
That's stupid.
So,
So-
are
so-
you a beepophile or
That's
whatever
not what a fucking pedophile is.
it's called? But let's just say, if you fuck someone under 18,
Let's just remove the nuance from the conversation because I have no idea how to engage with anything. Why do you talk about these topics?
you are
a pedophile. You're a pedophile. So this is just like the word misogynistic. I get called misogynistic all the time. Right? I was just in France recently, and there was a girl literally massaging my head. She's 27 years old. She's massaging my hair, standing on the street, and a sword boy comes up to me with earrings. He says, "I hate you. You're a misogynist." He says, "I hate you," and he doesn't know. And I ask him like, "What does misogynist mean?" He doesn't know. Right? The same reason that you're
It's just somebody who like hates women, no? And has aggressive perspectives when it comes to women, no? I don't know. Okay.
definition of pedophile does not even follow the actual definition of the word. Is the
It doesn't, but I would like to, what do you think the definition is, Sneako?
same thing when people throw around the term misogynist and they don't know what it means. That's what happens when you get to throw
As I
around.
just said, I know it's not the definition of the word, but we're just using terms so we can all be on the same
Okay,
page.
but words
Okay, well that's dumb.
have meanings for a reason. You can't just make up a definition of
It's
a
a
word.
beepophile. If you have sex with someone under 18 but over 12, you're a beepophile or whatever it's called.
I don't even know if that's true.
Okay, so he's not a pedophile anymore. You just change it. So now he's a beebophile?
Well, I'd still use just that word. It's bad. Yeah, if you are having sex with like a 16,
Why don't you just say it's bad then? Why do you need to use the word pedophile?
17-year-old, it's bad pedophile behavior.
Okay, so it's not a
Your
beebophile.
argument-
It's not a beebophile anymore. It's a pedophile.
You're talking about terms. The correct term is a
I want to
beepophile.
figure out because
Stupid.
Moist, we can't have a discussion if we don't define terms.
You were the one that
You just have to define terms an hour into the conversation.
immediately got mad that I used pedophile incorrectly to just do a blanket term for
Exactly.
under 18.
I didn't get mad, but I'm pointing out if we define a term and then you change the definition of the term within the conversation, then the
I'm
conversation
not
makes it.
changing the term. You got upset because it's not the strict definition of pedophile. It is someone that hasn't gone through puberty. But we're using just this term to refer to anyone under 18.
Okay, so we're using.
Sure, like an ebophile is basically somebody that's like past, I guess, puberty. That's still considered a minor. Sure, I guess that would be what it was.
It
Words.
wasn't a textbook definition.
So we're using words, and we don't care about their meaning anymore.
You're doing the same thing.
No, I'm following. I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm following your line of logic. We're using
It's
a
not-
word.
it's not a gotcha, it's just
Cody
not a
Ko.
point.
So Cody Ko's a pedophile. Based on your logic, Cody Ko's a pedophile even though he's not a pedophile.
Okay.
We're using that term. Yeah, he had sex with a 17-year-old.
It's not. We're not just
pedophile,
using. We're not
sure.
using the term. It's
It's
either.
statutory rape. It's statutory rape.
That's would be probably what it is. Yeah, sure.
That's not what I'm not talking about. Statutory. I'm asking you. Is he?
That is a big deal, no? Why would you talk about that?
That's the legal term. It's statutory rape. Having sex with a 17-year-old after you're an adult.
So you change the term again. It was first beebophile, now pedophile, now statutory rape. Which one? Which one?
Well, no, it was pedophile first. You can't even get your orders right, but okay.
See, the reason that I'm having this discussion with you is you can't use arbitrary words that have no meaning to apply to somebody because
Okay, so the words have meaning. You're just not using the words correctly. So
that's how you cancel somebody. That's how you just say things around, and that's how you get to shame somebody, ruin their reputation. And that's when words lose all meaning. And if we lose the meaning of words, then society makes no sense. Then nothing makes any sense. Then kids can cut their dicks off. You know,
okay.
you're not understanding what I'm saying. You need to have words need to have meanings, or else everything crumbles. Or else the very fabric of society does not make sense if we're using words that don't have meaning.
We are. Age of consent has meaning. It's 18, and you are the one that's trying to redefine it.
You're going back.
You are.
You just said that he's a pedophile, but he's not a pedophile. It's statutory rape.
And
he's a
you're
pedophile.
dodging what I'm saying.
But I'm not dodging. I'm not dodging. You're calling.
He is dodging. He's harping on this, which it's justifiable for him to harp onto it because MoistCritical has opened himself up to this, but he's just harping on this. He's harping on it.
You're calling him a pedophile because it fits, but he's not because it's a bad word because it's morally bad. But he's not a pedophile.
Well, yeah, because he's using the word pedophile to mean morally bad. Like that's like, oh, that's a bad thing that somebody's doing, so you're a pedophile. It's like, well, that's not really what a pedophile is, and we should probably use the educated terms for these words. Like you're an adult. What is MoistCritical, like 30 years old? It's time for you to be a big boy and like use adult words when we're talking about things and talk about them in a more meaningful, mature capacity instead of just saying things that you feel comfortable with saying.
Because it's this day.
No,
the words you're using do not make
keep
sense.
You talk in circles.
I'm not talking in circles.
You wanted one term to encompass what I believe under 18.
No, he didn't. You could have been. You were lazy about it and used that one term.
And since I used pedophile and it's not the textbook definition, I said that the textbook won't be a pedophile. Or statutory rape is the charge of what it would be. It's a crime.
Okay. Do words need to have definitions?
Yes, and so does the age of consent.
Sure.
When we use the English language, should the words that we use match the definition of the word?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You're not doing that.
Okay. So he's clarifying right now. So yeah, it doesn't really matter anymore, does it?
Neither. You don't. What? Statutory rape then. We won't use colloquialism.
There you go.
It's
So
statutory rape.
within this conversation, you changed
Statutory
it.
rape.
Cody Cole
Cool, he changed it. Great. Still statutory rape. What's the point here?
is no longer a pedophile. He's a statutory rapist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I guess you'd call him somebody who allegedly commits statutory rape. I don't know if I'd call him a statutory rapist. That generally implies that he does it consistently.
Is he a beebophile still, or just a statutory rapist?
I guess he would theoretically or potentially, definitionally be a hebophile. Sure.
Statutory rape.
Okay, so he's not a beebophile.
A hebophile, I believe it is, not a beebophile. What is that? Somebody who likes Justin Bieber a lot?
No, we won't use that term.
It's not we won't. You're saying we won't use because you're operating within a bubble of cancel culture.
Oh my god, he's really going into this whole fucking thing. He's activating the fucking brain rot. He's activating the conspiracy talk. He's now like fully dog whistling to his audience. Cancel culture, bad. This is bad. It's okay to fuck kids. Bye.
It's not cancel culture. It's a 17. Do you think him fucking a 17-year-old is a big deal?
No, I don't.
No, of course he doesn't. He thinks it's okay to fuck 13-year-olds. What are you talking about?
I think it's bad. I don't think he should have sex out of wedlock. I don't think that's something to be. I don't think that's like incredible. I don't think that's a. But do I think that like she was? I think she was physically mature. I don't think that she was like traumatized from it. I think she's.
She probably wasn't traumatized from it. You don't have to be traumatized for something for it to be an inappropriate thing to generally happen. Just because something works out for some people doesn't mean that it's something that we should allow for all people. Right, because it opens up, considering the age gap, it opens up the potential for somebody to be traumatized and taken advantage of in a more meaningful capacity. So that's why that's why we create laws on these situations. Like I said, just because when you drink and drive you don't hit anybody doesn't mean it should be legal. That's how it works. Like, we understand this on an intuitive level, but we're fucking engaging in debate pedophilia and regular pedophilia, according to Sneako. Because that's fun, I guess. I don't know.
Out chasing going on every single podcast. Do I think that he's a pedophile? No. She looked like she was mature. She looked like she definitely went through puberty. Definitely wasn't the first person she had sex with. And maybe it was in a state where the age was 16. So legally based off the
I think it was when they're 18, but I think that he was from Canada, where they have like the general acceptability is like 16. So that's a whole conversation about like landscape theory and whatnot, which is just like, but okay.
definition, no. Morally based off the definition, no. It was in Florida. So isn't it? What's the age there? 17?
18.
It's 18.
You sure?
I'm almost positive.
See, you don't even know. So now you're trying to think, wait, is
it's 18.
she a pedophile or not? It's either she's a child or she's not. These are very simple definitions that we need to follow. And if we follow, you're Googling it, if we follow your line of thinking, that's when things get crazy. That's when kids can cut their penises off.
Okay.
That's when I'm a woman right now.
Kids can marry at 14 and 15 in your ideal world.
You know what's so silly about the situation is when you talked about Chris Tyson, did you see the number one viral clip I saw? And I know you saw it. Did you see it?
Which one?
People were getting angry at you that you misgendered Chris Tyson.
I didn't misgender anybody though. I only referred to Ava by her name.
I heard
misgendering.
I saw the clip that went viral. It was they.
Well,
the clip that went viral most likely wasn't a meaningful clip. There's plenty of people who are sitting down. The reality is like there are people who are annoying about like properly gendering Ava Chris Tyson, but most of the time there are people who do not like trans people who are melting down trying to pretend like there is this wide massive audience of people who are more interested in the misgendering than anything else. That's really what it comes down to. There are annoying people like that, but that's not even close. The majority of people aren't fucking policing him over the words. They're taking it and going, see, look, people don't actually care about this trans person doing a bad thing. They just wanted to be properly, fucking pronounced, and that's why being trans is bad. Like that's usually the secondary thought there. Right, so just to be clear, like it was over-exaggerated nonsense.
Yeah, I used they, but I only used her name, and I used they when referring to most people in general. I say they a lot. And when I was at the Mr. Beast thing, Ava was referred to by they, by one of the staff, so I just played it safe and said Ava, and I didn't want to offend anybody because I am not transphobic. Like, I never have been. I don't have hate in my heart.
They're calling you transphobic.
I know.
The people that live within your frame of thinking, the Western civilization mind, that hive mind, they're calling you a transphobe now for calling Chris pedophile Tyson a they.
Well, Chris is not a pedophile, problem unless you have something else to show us. But
what do you think about that?
It hurts. I don't like to see it, but it is what it is. I should have looked into the preferred pronouns more. I just made an assumption that people just...
Or you could just be like, those people are being annoying. I didn't fucking misgender anybody. Fuck them. Who gives a shit?
Be safe and use Ava's name. Like,
that's
to go beyond that.
That points out the problem, the flawed thinking of Western...
This is why you got to get morals from your God and not from yourself. Okay. I mean, listen, man, if you're comfortable with fucking kids and slavery, then God bless you, buddy. I don't know. You do you, brother. God's a great tool, but at the end of the day, the Bible clearly does not encompass all of God's word. So
civilization, this liberal mind. When somebody gets exposed for messaging children and saying like this guy was exposed for liking lolly,
you're okay with this. What are you talking about? You want kids to get married to adults. You can't have this moral high ground. The lolly shit is fucking definitely weird though.
Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah, Dr. Disrespect, that's the same thing. What he did was wrong. Both are wrong.
You defended him though.
No,
what are you talking about? Why is it wrong? By your logic, a 17 or whatever age the girl, as long as she was mature enough, is fine. Oh, right, because it's wrong because he wasn't married to the person. But it's not wrong because of the attraction to that. By the way, that's what he's trying to communicate, but he doesn't want to say it explicitly because he's dog whistling right now. He wants people to have different interpretations. He's trying to what you think he's saying is like, oh, it is wrong. What he's because he's trying to talk to a young person. But what he actually says is, well, they're not married. That's why it's wrong.
You still, even in this conversation,
I never defended Dr. Respect, never.
Yes, he did.
What did I say that defended him? What I said was I'm pointing out the flaw. Everybody's so quick to hate him, but then Chris Tyson comes along and all those people are silent.
No,
right?
Even before.
Nobody's silent about Chris Tyson. Let's be absolutely clear. It's been pretty big.
No. I never defended him. No, I never defended. What he's doing is
He did defend him. What are you talking about? I fucking saw this guy defend him on like fucking Twitter.
wrong. He's a married man. He shouldn't be doing that. I said that he should not be doing that.
It's the married part. That's the issue. We know that. Like, yes, it's not good to cheat on your spouse. No, we know that the bigger issue is he tried to have sex with a minor. Okay, but he doesn't care about that because they're probably hot.
And what he did was wrong.
But you said that the 17-year-old thing is not a big deal at all.
Right, yeah, I don't. It's not. It's not.
But
it's bad. He should not. He should not do it. Does that make him a pedophile? No. My point is.
Wait, why is it bad? I thought you said it was okay.
Chris Tyson. What he does is absolutely wrong. Like what Dr. Disrespect is wrong. The point is Chris Tyson gets exposed for messaging actual children, and the woke mob that you're controlled by, they get mad at you for misgendering instead of the fact that this guy is actually messaging children. This is the world that we live in now.
So like everybody's upset with Chris Tyson and what happened. Let's be absolutely clear. But okay.
You do a video condemning a pedophile, an actual pedophile, and instead of talking about that.
So just to be clear, Chris Tyson, by nothing that we saw, communicates that they are a pedophile. Lolicon shit is weird. The additional context, which I wasn't as aware of, that fucking Twitter was insane like 5 to 10 years ago, and like this was like a real meme. I'm taking that into account as well, which is still bizarre. They might be a pedophile. I don't really know, but we need more substantive substance in this argument in order to be like, okay, this person is definitely a pedophile. Like that is a pretty intense term. The shade-based shit is still weird, but like I've seen like this whole list of like a ton of creators that I never would have expected it that were also associating with that Shadman guy. So it's like, what the fuck? So like clearly the internet is a goddamn like a nightmare hellish landscape back then. You know, again, you had content creators doing fucking Jean-Benet Ramsey sexual fucking cosplays, like psychopath people. So, people are fucking wild on the internet. I thought I was bad, but I used to just tell people I hope they die of cancer and said slurs. I never fucking had lolicon memes.
They focus, and the clip that goes viral.
He fetishized his own son? How the fuck did he fetishize his own son?
Is MoistCritical misgenders Chris Tyson the pedophile. Insanity world. You can't follow the ever-changing morality of the West because then it's misgendering is going to be canceled. And it's, on Twitch, you can't even misgender. You can't say there's 2 genders on Twitch on the platform you're on. That's the reason you're not streaming right
You can say there's 2 genders on Twitch. Nobody cares.
now. This is the problem.
As long as you're not disrespectful about it. Every time Sneako decides to be provocative for attention, he's as disrespectful as possible for fucking attention, and then he gets banned for it.
To have consistent
I just wanted
morality.
to have a conversation with you again. That's all. I wasn't going to stream it or anything.
I know, but I'm saying this conversation. If you
Well,
have
you
this
just said that's why I wasn't. But
well, if you have this conversation on Twitch, you would get in trouble. The point is, if the ever-changing rules of this Western thing where they keep adapting love is love versus gays, then it's LGBT.
First it's gays, then it's LGBT? What the fuck? Oh my god.
Then it's LGBTQIA, and then it's just accept them, and then
Okay, yeah, there's nothing wrong with accepting gay and trans people. It's fine.
it's cut their people.
Well, by Sneako's logic, we should accept pedophiles into our society.
Penises off, and then it's take hormones, and then its kids can take hormones, and then its kids can cut their dicks off, and then they're parading through the streets, and then they're waving their dicks out in the park in public.
But I thought they didn't have their dicks anymore. How are they waving them out in public? What happened? I'm so confused.
do the same song and dance with your ideal world too. You're not setting anything defined. Your age of maturity is not a number. You haven't put a number on it. That leads to the same thing. Well, all of a sudden, it's okay for a 14-year-old to marry a 16-year-old. Well,
What same thing are you talking about?
why is it okay for that, but not a 12-year-old to marry a
He's fucking fear-mongering uneducated people about how gay people are a threat to society and trans people. It's fucking childish.
16-year-old? Like, you can keep...
I am drawing a line, but what you're not understanding is
What's the
that
line? What's the line? What's the number? What's the
maturity.
number?
There's
First it's gays, then it's me posing nude for a gay magazine, then it's my fucking girlfriend fucking another guy in front of me. Where does it end?
it's not a
It's not a
number.
number. What is the number? What is the number?
I just
It
told
needs to be a number, or else you can do the same thing.
I just told you there's not a number
Oh my god.
But do you see why that's a problem?
No.
If there's no defined... So why can't a 12-year-old marry an 18-year-old?
because most 12-year-olds haven't gone through puberty yet, and most
Okay,
12-year-olds.
what if, as you just said, it changes. What if a 12-year-old went through puberty early, the parents consent, the 18-year-old and the parents consent?
There we go. Finally, this is a good question. Finally.
Can they do it?
Most likely that's not going to happen. You know why? Because Islamically, if we're not,
No, that's not about most likely. In this scenario, if the 12-year-old goes through puberty, can they marry the 18-year-old?
It's not the most likely. Just say it. Can they do it?
if
In your world.
there's harm involved, then it's not
Well,
going
how
to
do
happen.
you know there's harm involved? You wouldn't know until it happens.
If the family's not going to, if it's not good for the child, if the child's not mentally ready yet, if the
family's
child's not,
So the answer is Sneako is saying it's okay for a 12-year-old to marry an 18-year-old. Just to be clear, that's what he's saying without saying it directly because he's afraid of it.
The kid is consented.
if the
Why?
families have consented, the kid is mature, the kid is ready. Why should I
At
stop
12
it?
years old. At 12 years old.
If the kid is physically mature, the parents consent, both parties are happy.
What a fucking animal. Holy fuck.
12-year-old being physically mature.
What is this debate? Sneako desperately trying to justify predatorizing children.
If it's that's the only line that actually makes sense. We just
Teenagers. Let's say teenagers, guys.
Establish how yours
How
doesn't
does
make any
that
sense.
make sense?
We just
How does
established
that
how
make
yours
sense?
makes no sense.
Let's use the accurate term here, guys. I think you Ghost Task 141 for the $5. I think Sneako at first didn't believe half the things that he was saying, but wanted approval from others. Now he's deceived himself in believing. No, Sneako has no other audience that he can pander to anymore. So he's going with the religious audience, and like part of that is he had a conversation with some fucking with some like Muslim, whatever the fuck they're called, and he was like, "Yeah, it's okay to fuck kids." So now Sneako is justifying fucking kids. Just to be clear, that's what's happening here.
Sense, right? Because you change your definition 50 times. I'm saying there is no consistent line. People mature at different ages.
Neither
Who am I to
is
tell you?
definition of maturity. You keep saying how it fluctuates.
Going through puberty doesn't make you mature enough to be able to get married to an 18-year-old. That's wild. A 12-year-old that just started maturity, Sneako says it's okay for them to marry an 18-year-old. It's fucking crazy.
Yes.
Like you are admitting it fluctuates.
Do you agree
So
that
how
people?
is there
Okay. Do people mature at different ages?
people mature at all
People do mature at different ages, but not to that degree. And you're not mature when you start fucking puberty. So
kinds of different ages.
Exactly.
But there needs to be a set one. Like 18. 18 being an agreed upon one makes it very set in stone with what is and is not acceptable. In your world, you just said a 12-year-old can be physically mature enough to marry an 18-year-old. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a huge. Yes.
I don't
That's a
encourage.
huge issue.
I don't encourage this, but I would much rather live in a society that allows a physically ready, whatever age, if I'm 14 something, if
physically ready by what metric? Okay.
they're physically ready, the parents consent. I'd much rather live in a society that encourages marriage instead of cutting your penis off.
Okay, we don't have nobody cuts their penis off in our society, so it's a good thing.
That's the issue. You can't have this.
See, do you see why that's creepy though? So then we'll extend it to you. Let's say again, all of this is going through the Sneako utopias here. You got 14-year-olds marrying, all of this. Are you going to play by those rules now? Are you going to start looking at 14-year-olds that might be physically mature?
You've asked me this question 3-4 times, and I've given you the same answer. That's not my personal taste. That's not what I like.
Okay. Why is it a taste if they're mature enough? Why is it a taste? I don't understand.
I want somebody that's around. I want a girl that's younger than
What does your dad say? Is your dad okay with you marrying these kids? Because you said it was the dad's responsibility to make the decision, no?
me. I'm 25. I'd rather. Do you know that peak fertility happens when
You believe there's no true morality. Everything is just your opinion, but that is just a contradiction. Well, it's not a contradiction. I don't think that you know what words means. But again, you're justifying kids getting raped in marriage scenarios. So I'm okay with me being intelligent enough to parse through information to go, you know what? It might be bad to rape kids in marriage. So I'm okay with that instead of you apparently using religious text to justify child abuse. So just to be clear, I know you don't want to paint it like that because it makes you look like a fucking disgusting animal, but that's what you're doing. Okay, so I'm not going to use the Bible to dictate the age of consent or whatever nonsense because that sounds like very predatory to kids. This is why it's illegal to have arranged marriages. It's fucking disgusting. So you can sit here and pretend to be all fucking morally virtuistic because you're so fucking stupid that you can't think for yourself and you need a book that's like thousands of years old written by somebody with an IQ of 50 and not actually by your God because it's their interpretation if you want. But I think I'm going to opt for, not the idiot take and have a little bit of, not even a particularly high level of intelligence, just like an average level of intelligence. That's where I'm going to probably go into.
like after you go through puberty, like when a girl's 16, that's peak fertility.
So you want to peak
Peak fertility 16. What the fuck are you talking about?
fertility 16?
I don't. I'd rather a girl. My ideal wife person. If you're gonna ask personal question, my ideal wife is probably 20, 21 years old. When
You just said that it was your age before. What happened? You said that it would be your age. You're like 26. Why is it 21 now?
I'm 26, 27. That's the ideal. If she's 24, she's 23. That's fine. There's an age gap. Okay. And you know what's funny about that? If I'm 25 and if my ideal wife is 20, if you go follow the Romeo and Juliet laws, in a couple years before I'd be a pedophile. Okay.
What? But she's 20. She's not a child, so you would never be a pedophile. What the fuck are you talking about?
This is why it's silly.
What is he talking about? There'd never be pedophilia ever or any type of inappropriate action between a 20 and a 25-year-old. What the fuck is he talking about?
It's not silly though. There needs to be an age. You're not giving an age. You're giving an obtuse definition of maturity, which fluctuates so much from 12 years old to 14 years old.
Let's look up the definition of maturity. If I'm giving an obtuse definition of maturity, let's look it up and see who's following it.
Okay, so now
And everybody can look.
on your beliefs.
I told you what I believe in, and I'm pretty sure this is what the
You haven't
definition
given.
of
You
maturity
can't give a number.
is. The definition of maturity is the state, fact, or period of being mature. You know what it does not say? 18. It's not saying 18.
Well, that's great. Guess what? 14-year-olds aren't mature enough to marry. Oh, sorry. 12-year-olds are not mature enough to marry 18-year-olds.
Maturity
You say
depends
one.
on the state.
I want you to say one because there needs to be one in a society.
Why do
Otherwise,
you want me to say one?
Because there has to be. There has to be
You're not gonna get it out of him. I don't know why why are you still in this conversation?
an age. If you don't agree that it's 18, then what should it be? You said when you can legally drive. That makes it 15 or 16.
We're going in circles, and I told you. And I said the age of driving should be the same as age of consent.
Oh, this game is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
You said it's because of maturity, correct?
18 is yes. 18 is set
No.
because that.
You said adulthood means maturity, correct?
Adulthood means over 18. Yeah, that's when you are outside of your parents. Again, you're not a child.
Adulthood doesn't mean maturity. Adulthood means that you're at a place to be able to make your own decisions. To be very small amount. It doesn't even need that. You don't have to be mature to be an adult.
That's not actually what the definition of the word means. You are making up a definition of maturity. Same thing as you did with childhood.
Same thing you're doing with your ideal world. Like all of it is, you have to have these.
Okay, I gotta take a piss. I'm gonna take a quick break and take a piss. Let's continue. I had to get the piss out of my fucking wiener, dude.
Childhood.
Thank you for the $5 from Ghost Task 141. The more Sneako speaks, the more he tells on himself. This man basically said that he would support marrying anyone under age. Yes, as long as they've hit puberty. So incredible stuff.
Same thing you're doing with your ideal world. Like all of it is, you have to have these. They have to be there. Like there needs to be an age. Like there just has to be. You can't have these arguments where children are marrying adults.
Why do you have to have an age?
Because then you end up in a situation like.
Yeah, it's helpful to have a general age based on data. I don't know. I guess you don't have to, but it helps if you don't want kids to get fucking abused.
We just showed with a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old where you said that's okay. That's not.
And why is that wrong?
That is completely wrong. That is a 12-year-old.
Okay, you said the age.
It's wrong because their ages and level of maturity is too vast for that 12-year-old to be able to make an informed decision about how life works. Okay.
18-year-old.
Remove the age for a second because I think it's confusing you. Why is that wrong?
How would you remove the age if the age is the issue?
That is someone who is literally still in middle school. That is someone who is playing with fucking dolls right now.
That's a middle schooler and a high schooler. Well, why is that wrong? Tell me why that's
No,
wrong.
it's someone who's going off to college, most likely.
Tell me why that's wrong.
The person going off to college is driving. The person going off to college is working. The person going off to college is in a totally different state than someone who is literally still playing with dolls. Like, that is not okay under any circumstances at all.
So you're saying it's because there are different stages in life?
It's a child
I mean, generally, sure.
versus an adult.
They don't have like the fucking their brain. They're not developed enough to be able to make an informed decision. They don't have to be at the peak level of mental maturity to be able to make the informed decision, but they're not even close to it.
I guess to even get back a little bit, do you think there's not a problem with a child being with an adult?
Okay. We haven't even
he doesn't care, dude. He doesn't give a shit. Why the fuck are they still talking about this?
agreed upon what a child and an adult is.
Oh
you keep saying that's 18. And I'm telling you, that's not even the definition of the word. You're having a conversation.
You don't care about definitions most of the time, though. Like, you're not even using a definition for maturity that has an age attached to it that needs to be in place.
Because that's not the definition of maturity, right? We can't have this conversation if we don't set in stone what these words mean. Child means somebody that is not physically mature. Adult means somebody that's physically mature.
That's not what those words mean. It's like different definitions of the word. I'm looking at it right now. A young human below the age of puberty. That doesn't mean that being at puberty doesn't make you mature, but okay.
What those words mean. You are making up based off of numbers what defines these words, and that's not even what the words mean. So you can call it beebophile, you can call it statutory rape, you can call that what that is, but that's not what those words mean. And I'll concede to that. If you want to call it those words that actually mean what they say, then fine. But based off child and adult, you're wrong.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay. So then I guess
So you'd be a child until you hit teenage years, and then you'd be a teenager. I don't think teenagers should be marrying adults.
I guess we just won't see eye to eye on it. So,
but it's not even seeing eye to eye. Why can't you accept the definition of these words? Is the dictionary?
These aren't the actual definitions of these words.
Wrong?
No, like I said, the definitions are fine of these words, like maturity and all that. But that does.
Okay, but not even the definition of child is somebody who's not physically mature yet. Are you okay with the definition? Simple question. Are you okay?
Somebody going through puberty is not physically mature. He has this like wild. This dude literally is running like, dude, again and again. And again, it's funny that he acknowledges that physical maturity, even if they were physically mature, which they're not, they're still not mentally mature, which is more important. So Sneako, like, he knows he's wrong.
Okay with the definition of child?
That is a fine definition of a child.
Okay, are you okay?
Yeah, you're right, dude. It's easy. Their parents will decide if they're mentally mature. You're right, brother. You're right.
Okay with the definition of adult, somebody who's physically mature?
You're right, brother.
Yeah, that's a fine definition too.
Then you are on the same page as me. Child and adult.
No, because I still agree there needs to be a line where these two things get separated. There needs to be a place where this one is a child, this one is an adult.
But then you're being hypocritical. You contradicted yourself, because if now you're agreeing that what separates a child and adult.
What are you talking about? Thank you for the $5 from Retro Shisu. Have you heard of the Sonia Massey case? If not, you should check it out. I have not heard of it. I'll take a look at it later.
Is physical maturity, that is puberty. And early in this conversation, you said before 18, if someone has sex with someone before 18, they're a pedophile. After 18, they're good. Now you're not saying that. You're going in circles.
He's not really going in circles. You're going in circles to bring it back here. He conceded that it wouldn't be pedophilia, and then he labeled it as like ebophile and statutory rape, and you just keep going back here because you're just looking to hammer him in. He's letting you do it.
So it's either
when did I contradict
the definition of pedophile is child lover, right?
We can
definition.
No, it's not the definition of pedophile. I don't really care to say it again for like the 10th time.
The definition, we define that. Okay, so we define three terms. Child, somebody not physically mature. Adult, somebody physically mature. Pedophile, child lover. Okay? Now, based off those definitions, 18 has nothing to do with it. There's no numbers.
But there needs to be. That's the point I'm making. There needs to be.
This whole conversation so
you can't leave these things up to ambiguous well, this person and their family consented to marrying this 13-year-old and their family consented, so it's fine. Because it's not. It can't be.
Do you concede that you've changed your definition of all these words in this conversation?
Probably. This has been so all over the place, I don't know where we're at. So there's a very good chance.
You started off by saying, and you said it so many times in this conversation, that 18 means an adult and before 18 is child. Now you're saying it's physical maturity.
No, I'm still dead strong. 18, adult, under 18, child.
Is anybody else hearing this?
Like
you just changed your opinion in the span of 10 seconds.
I've never
in the span of 10 seconds, I just defined these and you agreed. I said, child.
So just be clear, he didn't change his opinion at all. He changed the labels of the words that he's using because he hasn't really fleshed out the words because he's not used to getting pushback for having the take of you shouldn't fuck teenagers. So that's probably a big reason.
Is not physically mature. Adult is physically mature. Pedophile is child lover. You agree?
Two things: physical and mental maturity. How to define them? Physical, biologically; mentally, by parents or decisions by IQ tests. Wow, that's a really stupid, idiot thing to say. Just to be clear, one, your parents are not going to be the ones to decide whether you're mature enough. Two, an IQ test doesn't mean that you're mature. I had a pretty high IQ when I was a kid. Does that mean that I was ready to get married to a fucking adult? No. You don't. Your argument doesn't even make sense. Why would you use an IQ test and your parents saying they're mature in order to dictate these things? Why do you have these takes? How old are you? And why are you even here watching me? This is so fucking weird. It's so bizarre that you were justifying a 12-year-old marrying an 18-year-old and getting raped in a fucking relationship. It's insane to me. I'm actually fucking flabbergasted that people like you exist. Holy fuck.
Then I brought up 18, and then you changed it. Now, 18 is adult.
That's not mutually. Those definitions are fine. But that you still need to classify in society what is and is not an adult, where that maturity is on a number. Okay. You have to do that.
The number has nothing to do with physical maturity, the definition that you just agreed upon.
It 100% does in terms of this relationship between a child and a fucking adult.
What is a decision-making test? What does that even mean? What is the test? Like, you're justifying fucking kids. So what I'm hearing here is that you're like 25 years old, desperately hoping that you can find 13-year-old girls that will pass this test so that you can have sex with them. That's what I'm hearing. That's fucking weird as shit. That's fucking bizarre as fuck.
It does.
I don't even know what you think a child is anymore. Is it somebody physically mature or somebody under 18?
In society. But if you want to define child as puberty, that's fine, because that is the textbook definition of a child.
Okay, and you agreed that's what the
Why do you measure mental maturity with a psychologist? Why don't you? We do. What are you talking about? We do measure mental maturity with like psychologists. We literally use data for people, like data that measures the maturation of people in different life stages to craft an age of consent. What you're actually saying is, hey, why don't we make it so that every kid in the world has to take a test to see if they're allowed to fuck adults? Because like, I don't really get it. So like, how much money does that cost tax-wise? So you're saying that you're so horny for 15-year-old girls' pussies that you want to spend billions of dollars in engaging in fucking government mandated tests for little girls. I don't get it. That's so weird. This is fucking bizarre. Why are you so desperate for this? That's so weird. Why? What's the narrative here? Because the reality is that like, if it's an 18-year-old and a 6, like Romeo and Juliet laws are already deal with any nuanced factors of some people maybe being a little more mature versus less mature within like an age range of like 3 to 4 years. The places where there isn't age, where there aren't Romeo and Juliet laws, they usually don't prosecute like small age gaps because they don't fucking care. So like, yeah, whatever, 18 and 16, whatever, 18 or 19 and 16, I don't really care about that. But we're not talking about that because those are already generally acceptable in our society. What we're talking about is like literal fucking like mid-20s adults and like fucking mid-teens. So what the fuck is happening here? Thank you for the $2 from International Failure. Need to sleep, but bless you for not going insane. I am going insane. I didn't know there were so many fucking disgusting animals out there. Thank you, Diabetic Survivor, for the $5. Left the stream to go to the casino. I won a $250 jackpot and won $300 altogether. So I'll spread the wealth a little bit in your direction. Well, thank you so much, brother. You don't have to do that. Enjoy your winnings. Thank you for 17 months small government trade. Do you think Sneako believes this or is he grifting? I have no idea, dude. I think that this is the last audience he has to pander to, so he's desperately trying to do it. Thank you, I'm not high, for this $5. Sneako just made this whole conversation more pointless with this last point. He's fighting Charlie's ghost on the terms Sneako reduced the argument to. Yeah, pretty much. It's just fucking, he's just jerking off the fucking conversation at this point.
definition is.
Yes, that is a fine definition. But you can still fall under 18 and be a child.
Okay.
That is the point.
Fair.
You are under 18, you're a child, you fall into
I understand what you're saying now. I can understand your difference between legal and morality, right? There's a difference between legal and morals, right? Is Dr. Disrespect messaging, I don't know if he messaged a 17-year-old, it's fine. Let's use a hypothetical. He messages a 17-year-old. Is he a pedophile?
No, it's not a pedophile. It's still inappropriate.
As we've gone in circles. I would say it's a bad thing.
Especially since the implication is that he messaged, that you're saying where he messaged somebody, a 17-year-old, your logic for a romantic encounter, we'll say.
And if we're going to,
You're not answering the question. No. It's a simple question.
I would say you are going to a child.
You're not making
You're
sense.
Going to a child.
You don't know what this person is. You just said it's somebody physically mature.
It's a minor. He said it's a minor.
Physical maturity does not matter.
You keep
we know it's a
you've
minor.
changed the word.
Not as much as mental maturity. So why the fuck would it matter if they're physically mature when their mental maturity isn't even, like, they're not even close to that yet?
I've heard so many different words for you. It's a legal minor, but is he a pedophile?
Thank you for the $2. No, he's not. Thank you $2 from Zachary De Stefano. It's wild so many people try justifying this now. Yeah, well, I mean, MoistCritical has done the amazing job of helping people justify it by doing so poorly in this conversation.
Yes, it's talking to a child.
What Papa thinks 35 and 17 is fun? What do you have like a mental disorder? When did I ever say that? It's completely inappropriate. What the fuck? Are you stupid?
Yeah. We're going to simplify it even further. Yes.
Oh, I think you're a stupid person. Why do you think that I would say 35 and 17 is fine? What world do you live in where you think I said that? Are you dumb? Do you think I agree with Dr. Disrespect? He did a wrong thing. What are you talking about? Are you stupid? Sorry, I shouldn't be going in on you. We probably agree. You just misinterpreted what I said.
He's talking to a child pedophile, sure.
Your morality is arbitrary. It depends on nothing that
So
makes
your
it.
respect-
Morality is not arbitrary. It depends on different people, having conversations with each other and coming to different agreeances based on really empirical data. That's how we came to age of consent.
It doesn't make physical sense because you just said it based on maturity and now it has to do with age. Those are two separate things.
I never said based on
there's no
maturity. I said
consistency.
What? The maturity is like the age is that's the general age that people are at, the level of maturation needed to make informed decisions. What?
Always needs to be a line. You can define a child based on puberty and adult based on maturity. That's fine, but there needs to be a line where this line over it is adult, under it is child.
Nobody does that. We do, like, there's different developmental phases, but okay.
That's not even what you believe in
How is that not what I believe in?
because you just said it's maturity.
What do you mean?
You just said it's physical maturity. Why are you following something that you don't believe in?
What are you talking about? The definition of child and adult is fine, but there needs to be a line in society where over here you go into this category, under here you go into this category. It's crucial.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Leave
we
the-
have 15 and 16-year-olds are marrying adults. and that's a
Leave
problem.
the legal thing out of it. Dr. Disrespect is messaging a physically mature 17-year-old who's
I don't believe there's such a thing. I don't believe there's such a thing.
You just said there was.
It doesn't matter about physical maturity. It matters about mental maturity. That's what makes it wrong. What are you talking about?
No, it's under a child. Under 18, you fall into the child category.
Incredible.
You had puberty probably, or maybe not, as you said, but you fell into the child category under 18. It's just, to me, it's that black and white. I don't think there's a huge argument. I don't know why that's so hard to understand, brother.
Last time, because we're going in circles.
Yeah.
I know.
An adult is someone who's physically mature, correct?
No,
The definition of an adult's maturity, yep, and over 18.
it's not the definition of an adult, but okay.
Not the
So that's Sneako thinks that hitting puberty makes you physically mature. That's where this issue is coming in. So once you're 12 years old and you hit puberty, you're a fucking adult, according to him.
we need to agree upon a definition.
Brother, the definition's fine. The definition doesn't bother me.
So
That's
it's
fine.
not about you. Do you agree the definition of a child is somebody not physically mature?
God, this is so stupid.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yes.
That's fine.
A child is somebody not physically mature, correct? Hold that thought.
Okay, not physically mature.
Yes. Dr. Disrespect message a physically mature 17-year-old.
No such thing. You can't prove it. How's the 17-year-old?
It doesn't matter if they're physically mature. Like, he keeps going on this physical. He's getting fucking wafted on this. It doesn't. Physical maturity isn't the factor. The mental maturity is the factor. It doesn't matter. You could have like a fucking 10 out of 10 person. That's like a 30-year-old that's 10 out of 10. But if they operate at the brain age of like a 13-year-old because they have a traumatic brain injury, they are deemed non-consenting. It doesn't matter about like a physical maturity is really not that big of a factor. The biggest factor is mental maturity. That's why there are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are deemed non-consenting because they don't understand consent. They think that if you buy them a hamburger, they have to fuck you, some of them. Like, these are like some of the questions, like along the lines of the questions that are asked when it comes to deeming whether somebody is deemed consenting or not, or figuring that out. It doesn't matter. You keep saying mental maturity. It doesn't matter if you're 17, or excuse me, you keep saying physical maturity. It doesn't matter if the 17-year-old looks attractive according to you. What matters is their mental ability and capacity to consent and like operate. What are you talking about?
Physically mature. They're not. So in my eyes, 18.
Do you understand what a hypothetical? Do you understand what a hypothetical is?
He's like watering down every Destiny argument that he's ever absorbing.
I got you. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought you were.
It's a physically mature 17-year-old.
Okay.
Based off your definition, an adult. An adult 17-year-old, correct?
No.
Nope. No such thing as an adult 17-year-old.
No, we don't know how old the Dr. Disrespect girl was.
There's no such thing as an adult 17-year-old.
Somebody.
That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
You just said it exists.
Oh my God.
I never said a 17.
$2 from Angie Toasty. Physically mature 17-year-old's crazy sentence. For sure.
17-year-old could be an adult.
When does someone become an adult? Okay, based on.
He's just gonna say 18.
I can't believe I'm hearing this right now. I genuinely can't. Okay.
It's super simple. 18.
This conversation is literal giving me fucking brain cancer. Holy fuck. I'm getting polycythemia vera from this conversation. I hope I don't actually get brain cancer, though. That's terrible.
Is when the maturity starts to kick in, and that's when you become the adult. That's what we've established. Anything under that, you're still a child. You could have gone through puberty.
Are you afraid of getting canceled or something? Like this is it's like this doesn't make any sense.
No, it's what I believe. Like it's just that simple.
But it's literally not what you believe.
How is it not what I believe?
You just said an adult is somebody physically mature.
Right. And I don't think you can be physically mature under 18.
What?
I don't think you can be physically mature under 18.
Puberty has nothing to do with age.
Well, yes, it does. You typically go through puberty at a particular age. What?
What does that have to do with anything I'm missing now?
If I'm a man, I go through puberty at 17. I physically become an adult, right? It has nothing to do with 18. Do you understand this?
Doesn't matter about physically. What matters is mentally.
Now I'm an adult because I'm physically mature.
No, you're not an adult of physical maturation. That's why we have increased the age of consent to a point where your brain is developed enough to make meaningful decisions, and we've decided that 18 is our cutoff point. Okay, cool stuff, man. We got it. We got there.
Are you 18?
Oh my god, it's like I don't mean to be rude, but it's like the two of the dumbest fucking people I've ever heard having this conversation. It's really pissing me off. Jesus Christ. I don't mean to be rude. MoistCritical's not a bad person, but why are you taking conversations with people like this? Like, all you're doing is giving him the opportunity to, like, fucking run defense for fucking kids. It's insane.
You really don't want to get canceled. This is...
no, it's just the truth. You need that there.
This is incredible.
I think that's where the distinction goes. I think it's super simple.
Mm-hmm. All right. I hope everybody listening can see where the consistency, because I don't think I'm going to get through to you. You're looping. But I hope you're able to see... Maybe you are...
Sneako's literally the one that bringing the conversation back over and over again.
Too, but I think that you're just afraid of like losing a platform or something, or getting angry,
no,
getting your audience angry.
Yes, he's just fucking dog whistle, or he's pandering to his audience. So they're like, yeah, cancel culture bad.
That's simple.
But do you see how arbitrary this is to define pedophile based off of a specific number, even though it doesn't physically even make sense?
No, I don't see why that's silly. I think that's entirely necessary.
When do they stop fucking talking?
Because you need that number.
Oh my god,
otherwise
they
you're
go
going to
for
have
like
14 and 15-year-olds marrying
Oh my
adults.
god, they're
okay.
still going to go.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's just incredible. Where does your morality?
A Papa God viewer. He keeps saying incredible.
I want to leave on this. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I do want to touch on this before I go. Where does your morality come from?
We already went over this, right? Personal experience and everything I take in from the world and process up in here.
Okay. 10 years ago, did you believe that a child can go through transgender therapy? Can they cut their penis off?
That's not like a child can't do that. So
10 years ago, I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't unaware of it, and then when I learned about it, I formed my own morality on it based on everything I saw, read, came to my own conclusions.
Okay. If I told you when you were a kid that it was okay legally and morally to cut your dick off, would you agree?
nobody lets you do that. Nobody cuts their dick off. They push it inside you.
Like what do you mean? Would I?
And like, I don't think I've seen a single person under 18 get bottom surgery specifically.
Like, would I do it, or would I say that that's okay?
Would you say that that's okay?
I'd have no idea on how to even process something like that. I'm a fucking child.
How old are you now?
29.
Okay. When you were 10 years ago, like, and you had heard about, because this was still bubbling. There was I think Caitlyn Jenner was first popping up. This was like the talk of the town. If I told you 10 years ago, try to remember that Trump was running for president, 2014. What's happened? Like Obama's still in office, right? I tell you it's okay to cut kids' penises off. You saying that's cool?
Cool.
So 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I'd say let me look into it, and probably if it's a decision they came to with.
Why does he allow Sneako to define the situation? You realize when people hear "cut your penis off," that's obviously going to create a graphic image of non-reality because it's not happening. Like, redefine what's actually happening. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Professionals and their family, I'd say yeah.
I'd say you have
the right to make that decision for yourself. Yeah.
Can you? I don't even know how to get through to like people like you sometimes. Why? Because why is it okay? Why? Okay, I'm not trying to be. Why do you think a kid can consent to that, but they can't consent to marriage? Why can a kid consent?
We're going in circles. I just said when it comes to a marriage, it's no longer just a personal decision. It's not. You take on a.
We've also established that a transgender surgery is also not a personal decision.
It is. It is a decision you are making.
You're also saying I do to the marriage, which is a personal decision.
And then you are bringing in an entire new.
I don't even know if I want to listen to this anymore. This is the same shit over and over and over again. This is the same. They've had this conversation 5 fucking times already. Holy fuck! How many times do they have it? How many fucking times are they gonna have the same fucking conversation? It lasts for so long. Does anything else happen? None of this fucking matters. Holy fuck.
An entirely new family dynamic from this.
I don't feel like going over the same talking point over and over again.
And why does that then make it wrong? Because other people are involved.
We've already talked about all this. I have no interest in this. It's so fucking boring. We've talked about this 8 times. We're supposed to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Oh my god. This is insane.
This is a predator who is coming into your life.
A predator?
Yeah, if you are marrying an adult as a child, that's a predator.
Okay, it's not predatory for the doctor to lure a kid into an office and cut his penis off.
Well, that's not what's happening. I don't care. We already talked about this.
But there needs to be an agreed upon consistency.
I don't care. I don't care.
Saying below 18, that's not acceptance. By your logic, you're saying that that's hatred people. That's hateful, right? Like, that's even silly to think about. No actual father. Do you even know a father who would allow his daughter to get married to somebody like this? You would.
Okay, we're still talking about the same thing.
Because you're harming yourself. Why can I not kill myself, but I can cut my penis off?
What? Because you would die. Okay, I don't care.
You're 18. It's your religion, man. I really hope you do.
Great. So this is pretty much. There's nothing else to this. It's just this was actually like it's one of the worst conversations I've ever seen in my life. The fact that Sneako ends up looking better than fucking MoistCritical in this is shocking to me. It's almost like it's almost impressive how fucking poorly he did in this conversation. So.